Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're going to do a wrap up of our impressions we had all night to think about it, right, Brian? So Brian's still filming. He'll be walking around because he's capturing more footage, and the settings will be all over the place. So the goal today is not so much to compare them side by side, but to wrap up our comparisons yesterday. And in the end of today's live stream, we're also going to do some PC gaming, 165 hertz on both TVs. We have a splitter that can handle it. We hope. We'll see. Brian brought his PC rig to do it, so we'll do a little bit of that. But most importantly, we're here to answer your questions about what your impressions are after yesterday's stream, or if you missed something from yesterday, ask here, and it's a great time for me to kind of wrap up our impressions and hopefully leave you with an idea of whether the Samsung S95F is for you or the G5 is for you, because ultimately they're both winners in their own respect, in their own right. As you saw yesterday, there were some scenes where the S95F killed it, and there were some scenes where the G5 did. And the question is, which of those use cases and scenes are you most likely to be experiencing, right? Bright room, dark room, glare, anti-glare. And this room here today is quite bright, as you can see around me. So it brings a certain level of reality to what the S95F brings to the table as far as its anti-glare. So yeah, before we jump into the wrap-up, say hello, hello. And of course, Dado wants to know immediately, so who won yesterday?
I'll skip the 7 hours.
Uh, uh, it's a nuanced response, but I think I can answer that at the beginning of this video, and then we'll start diving into why I chose what. So if I'm going to be forced into the corner as to who won, we will definitely talk about that for sure. So I'm going to save this comment. We're going to get back to that, Dado. I don't want to jump into it right now before I say hello to everyone. And Brian is here. He'll be jumping in to join us in a bit. He's still setting up the TVs and everything because we have to do, at the end, a little surprise PC gaming. We haven't done this before, splitting it 165 just to see if 165 works, to see if there's a dropout on the S95F, because there's this complaint that when you use the One Connect box, it simply cannot handle the high bit rate required because that One Connect box appears to be limited and capped at 40 gigabits per second. Does that cap the performance? Is there a way around that? And if it does, and there's dropouts, guess what, Samsung? I'm going to be sending this video to you. So then they can stop marketing this as a 165 hertz gaming machine if it cannot handle actual 165 hertz. All right, so big hello to everyone. And even Samsung is using tandem, the primary RGB tandem OLED panels. That is correct, but this year only on the 83-inch. And I'm beginning to wonder if the G5 does really well, will it be all TVs next year, right? Because you have to remember, Samsung Electronics, I hate to say this, has no loyalty to Samsung Display. As much as Samsung Display wants Samsung Electronics, the TV division, to use their QD OLED panels, it doesn't mean that Samsung Electronics will do so if they can make more money selling the primary RGB OLED, right? And so that's something you guys would have to consider. If you're hoping that QD OLED survives, which I do, it's all about sales, it's all about the margins, and depending on how expensive the QD OLED panels are compared to primary RGB OLED, they're going to be assessing whether, this 83-inch primary RGB is actually pretty good, doing well. Maybe we'll start moving it down to the 77, the 65, the 55, and then restrict QD OLED to just gaming monitors, possibly. We'll have to see. Speculation, I don't have any insight, just saying, right? But then on the other side of it, Sony has elected to use QD OLED as the more accurate cinema TV. And that brings us to, I think, the essence of yesterday's, great segue, by the way, Trey, thank you for that. The essence of yesterday's video, live stream, comparing the two, so who won? To Sony's point, QD OLED is more accurate. You will get more color saturation at higher luminances, right? With the most challenging contents. When the content is not challenging, they are literally identical. And you guys saw that, right? If it's to accuracy, right, it only goes up to 800 nits, which is almost everything on Netflix, on Disney Plus, whatever it is, up to 800 nits. Both TVs can handle it easily. Like right now, look what Brian's doing. Very similar, right? What mode are you in, Brian?
What's up? This is standard.
Standard mode, right? So Brian,
I'm filming the S95 and F
yeah,
daylight.
So Brian has it in standard mode, right?
Out of the box.
Out of the box, standard mode, resetting all the settings, whatever. This is what it looks like out of the box. Ultimately, they are so similar that up to 800 nits, good luck in distinguishing them because we couldn't. Now, it's the last 20% where you're pushing it with really challenging content. Maybe the future of HDR, 2000 nits and above. That's where the S90F with its color luminance kind of rises better than G5, but the impact, the HDR impact of the G5 gets brighter. You lose a little bit of that color saturation, but the HDR impact is there. Remember, Jennifer Galla, the creator of some of these videos, was there to answer the question. There was this one scene where it was the clouds and the bright sunlight in the clouds, and it was bright yellow on the S95F. Not quite as bright as the G5. On the S95F, you had more orange, but you also had more detail. You saw the rain in the orange clouds. S95F nailed the detail. G5, you lost the raindrops, but it was brighter. It still held some of that yellow, but it was super bright, and the impact was noticeable. I asked Jennifer, she was on the chat, what were you going for, Jennifer? The impact or the detail? And she immediately said one word, impact. So right there, the G5 won, because the creator said the G5 represented exactly what I wanted. I wanted that impact. Although the S95F showed the raindrops, she's like, okay, the raindrops are great, but where's that bright, blinding impact that I wanted for that scene? And so there you have the G5 actually delivering creator's intent on impact. And so who won yesterday? HDR impact, without a doubt, the G5. But if you're looking for a nuanced detail, whether it's perfect shadow near black, up to the gradient details that we talked about, the S95F. They did that better. However, the S95F had one thing holding it back depending on your viewing environment, and that's that matte screen. So here we are in bright sunlight, right? Not bright sunlight, but a bright room. And oh, okay, so in bright sunlight, you may not notice it because I have the exposure just so. But I do notice that the black levels on the G5 is deeper than the S95F. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit to match what I'm seeing. All right. And that's exactly, maybe I overdid the exposure a bit. It's not that bad, but it's visible. I think that's good. I think that's about right here. Okay, let me see. Yep, that's it. So that was a scene with deep black, and as you guys saw, not as deep as the LG. And we know the LG is not crushing that black because the G5 this year slightly lifted, right? So in this case, that is real black. In real black, it's black. It's when you get just above black that the LG does lift it a bit, and I think they'll fix it eventually, but they haven't yet. So just above black, yes. Just above black, yes. It's slightly lifted, but at deep black, the S95F right there, screen's off. You saw that, right? Slightly lifted blacks in this bright room. It is what it is. In content, if I didn't have the G5 next to it, you would still notice it. You could say, oh yeah, that doesn't look like a true black. It's when it's a full screen content, then you don't notice it. So I don't see it washing out the contrast per se, but you see it here when I hyperexpose it to you guys. So let me take the exposure back down, because it is annoying when I overexpose. All right, so now I'm matching the exposure to the content rather than to look for black issues, right? So I hope that answers your question as far as who won. It really definitely depends on what your emphasis is, right? So all good. All right, with that out of the way, I know you have questions specifically. What scenes, what SDR, gaming. I mean, we did a lot of gaming, right? We learned a lot about the game settings. So hit me with your questions, the more nuanced questions you all want to know. Here we go. G5 washed out and over brightened. No, it's the camera exposure. It definitely is not washed out. The G4 in vivid mode, I will agree. The G4, when in vivid mode, is washed out and over brightened. But that was the whole point of the G4. The G5 took that and completely addressed that weakness. Definitely not washed out and over brightened. Now, you can make it over brightened, but you can make it accurate. So in Filmmaker mode, it is accurate. The two are very similar. And if you see the S95, oh wow, Brian, are they in different color modes? They can look completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're in completely different color modes, guys. Don't look at this as a comparison right now. Brian is playing with the different color modes.
Just because I'm matching these two, not these two.
Right, so Brian is comparing the S95F to the S95D. The F and D are in a completely different mode than the G5. He's not matching the G5. So I'm just kind of showing this to you guys for fun. But they, yeah, ignore that.
Right now, Filmmaker.
What was that?
I'll put it back in Filmmaker.
Oh yeah, he's gonna put the G5 to match in it shortly. So yeah, don't look at that as a match. Maybe I should turn it over to the S95D.
Well, I mean, just all the G5 is just warmer.
Oh yeah, it is
It's
warmer.
still in standard.
So you put it in warm?
It's just being warmed up yesterday, I think.
Oh, it's warmer in standard.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like in standard, huh? Interesting. Actually, you know what? Let me put that up so they know that this is what standard mode looks like. Oh, yeah, it looks a little bit better
So
now.
Cinema matches it more.
Cinema matches it. So the Cinema is matching standard on the Samsung. Actually, let me do that because I know there can be a lot of confusion. What the heck is happening over there? So let me do this. Bear with me, my friends. Get this right. So this is Cinema on the G5 and standard warm 2 on the S95F.
Standard. It's actually just cooler.
Standard.
Cooler. So it's just that it's preset as the cool.
Oh, okay, standard.
I'll put it right, don't change it. I'll change it right now.
Okay, yeah.
What do you want them to do? You want it
Put it on Cinema Home, and then match the S95F. Put that on standard warm 2. Because I think that is the equivalent.
Shot of the screen, actually.
Yeah. There we go. Making some minor changes for you guys.
So that's standard out of the box for the G5 and standard warm 2 for the S95.
Oh, the G5's on standard or Cinema Home? You put it in Cinema Home.
Home, sorry.
Yeah, Cinema Home, out of the box, no other changes, and standard warm 2 on the S95F. All right. Okay, let's get back to your questions. Dennis, great question. Are either of these TVs calibrated? No, they're not. Nothing is calibrated. This is out of the box. Are we looking at out of the box settings? Out of the box, other than our changes to the direct settings, but we did not go into the calibration modes. And does the S95F have color booster activated? No. No color booster right now. I'm going to turn up the exposure slightly for you guys.
And when these are heavy duty cables.
Yeah.
I don't know if I needed the most professional.
Yeah.
Well, if you're using
Okay.
That's true.
That's handy.
Heavy duty.
I can't be missing a spec. You know, exactly the reason.
There's no miscommunication with this.
They're huge.
Not the view.
All right. We're back.
And
Let's take up your next questions. Move this down a little bit there.
they have arrows on them? No.
Wow.
Oh man, they both look amazing. I agree. I think both TVs look great. G5 77-inch, S95F 65, and I wanted you guys to see the differences between the sizes from my distance, watching distance. Oh, look who's here. Look who's joining us. Buddy,
What's up, guys?
you're demonstrating Starfield now?
Yes, we're just going through some quick demos. Let's restart. We failed to mention again. We're here today at Value Electronics. FOMO just started.
Where are we?
I
I just jumped
started.
right in. I don't know where we're in Val
So,
Electronics. Robert, thank you so much for giving us your weekend.
So today we're at Value Electronics in Scarsdale, New York. You guys have any questions about purchasing these TVs, please consider making your next AV purchase through them. Check the description below for all their information, their phone numbers. Ask for Robert, Wendy, or Leanne. They will help you.
Yep. And tell them FOMO deal or the BOMO deal.
On the BOMO deal.
And you will get a 10% credit.
We have hijacked the store for 2 days.
Yes.
The store was open. We had 2 community members hang out with us yesterday the entire day. Shout out to Luke and Tony, who hung out with us the whole day. But again, special shout out to Wendy, Robert, and Leanne for having us spend the entire day with them.
Yes.
So it's very important. I mean, FOMO's been here for 3 days.
I came in on Friday and started the setup on Friday. Saturday morning came in really early, set up, and Brian came in. We set up, shot for 7 hours, streamed with you guys for 7 hours, and then today we're here to wrap it up because we have some strong conclusions. And I'm going to answer this question, throw it to you, because they asked, well, who won? And you heard my answer, right?
Yep.
And this is important, Reep, because I know you're going to call Robert to order one of these 2 TVs. Buy the S95F over the S95D regardless of price. And I say yes, because if you're going to get the F for the matte screen is definitely improved.
Yeah.
I noticed that, and we tested this yesterday.
Yeah.
We turned off the TVs, and we put my different lightings against the D. What happened is on the D, that matte coating, it split it up into little rainbow bars that were very
So it looked like it had lines on.
Right.
So it was like a white circle with lines through it.
On the F, it was a smooth dispersion of light.
It was a little bigger, though.
It's a little bigger, but less distracting than the lines. So if you're going to go for it because you need the matte, then get the best matte. I think the F matte is better than the D matte.
Yeah.
However, the F matte appears to be slightly more lifted, ever so slightly. I think the D matte is actually, it affects contrast less in a bright room against a black screen.
Yep.
It is noticeable, but it's not a deal breaker if you're going matte anyway.
Yeah.
So I would say get the F and you get the advanced processing. You just get a more mature TV and it's slightly brighter. It is noticeably brighter. Not as noticeable as G4 to G5, but it's there. So I would go with the F. Now, throw it to you, Brian. Who won?
So it was difficult because we really put them in their most accurate preset the whole day, and we jumped out here and there. There was times where the G5 brightness showed through, and you're like, okay, I definitely give the G5 the HDR Impact Award for the entire day over everybody here. But for QD OLED, the color coverage and impact, thank you, Nice Shadow, that's a great comment. The color depth and vibrancy still goes to QD OLED. You can see where the G5 made great strides from the G4. That was a bigger delta between those two, but the S95 and S95D were closer together in terms of how image quality was. But the QD OLED does have still another level of color that the G5 can't quite reach, but it comes pretty close, I would say, FOMO. The color, we didn't see the color loss like we've seen the G series in the past.
Yeah. So for you, now for our personal use case, this year, because you guys know I'm an HDR Impact kind of guy, but I don't want to compromise color too much. A little bit's fine. For me, G5 had that perfect combination this year. So far, we haven't seen the Panasonic. We haven't seen the Bravia 8. So no Sony in the game because they have not released the Bravia 8 Mark II yet, or rather the Bravia 8 II, right? I don't think it's called Mark II because there's no mark in the title.
They said it's okay to say Mark, but when you type it out, it's going to be II.
Right, because if I'm on a podcast, you guys are listening to me, I say Bravia 8 Mark II. You're going to type in Bravia 8 Mark II and nothing will come up.
No, like a plane's going to come up with
right.
a jet.
When you type in Bravia 8 II, it will come up. And so we're going to help Sony out with that. Yeah. That's why there's no Sony in the game. But G5 is definitely better for HDR Impact. That has to be the context. Yeah. Doesn't mean the G5 will win the shootout because the shootout focuses on accuracy. And if the creator is one of those creators that not impact, but focused on the color luminance and the mood, I think the nuanced QD OLED from either Samsung, Sony, Bravia 8, or Panasonic, because they're going to go for nuance rather than impact,
Yep.
might win.
Yeah, so he said that like the Panasonic Z95B will be like a Sony 4-stack, but with more true processing and more accurate processing. So that might be the more subtle, more accurate TV, where the G5 is definitely going to try and do that extra processing that we see. I would say though, I think if the G5 was glossy, if the S95F was glossy, it would probably look better almost in every shot. I think the HDR impact is a little bit muted by the matte screen, even in a dark room. I think it is. It's very bright, but it just will always look a little warmer for that reason. But it's not. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And like Fomo said, because it's a little bit more aggressive this year, there was times where the S95D pulled ahead a few times.
And a couple people commenting in these scenes, you're seeing the lifted blacks. We are in a bright room.
The sun's actually hitting the screen, and they're doing okay for it. If I was to put them all in Filmmaker, it wouldn't look good. If you put the exposure up and put them in Filmmaker, they would look terrible.
Yeah.
But the sun is right on them.
But then look at the G5. The sun's on the G5 too.
Yeah.
And that's the point, right?
Yeah.
So
its reflection handling is pretty good.
We definitely tell you guys, it depends on your room. This is not a room environment that is good for the S95F. And when you guys ask, I have floor-to-ceiling windows, sun shines through. Should I get the S95F? And I say categorically no.
So in fairness, if you look ahead of our cameras, there is a really beautiful
Actually, no. As you talk, let me show them the skylight for those that missed it.
Yeah, so actually point down too, FOMO, just to show them the table that's in front. So that table, you see the long one heading over to the B&W speaker, and then go up to the light. So regardless, this is their main display area of their store. No TV does well in that spot with the sun. Because there's windows behind us, which are now covered, and then you have the skylight above us. So even if we have a glossy screen, they don't look great. So it's just it's a beautiful store, but I think that's hard for any TV. But the QD OLEDs are going to suffer when the sun hits the screen. Sun can be in the room, it just cannot touch the screen. If it does, it'll gray out. And that's why the S9 Paris, that's why it looks a little washed out. But we'll lower the exposure back and take a look at them. But I mean, I think what the consensus was yesterday, if you're lucky to have any of these 4 TVs, you're happy. Like, you're legit happy. I mean, they're amazing. Yeah. I would rather see the S90F have, what's funny, you brought this up yesterday, FOMO, is that we'd rather see the S90F have the matte screen, but the reality is the matte is considered a higher end feature, isn't it?
Yes.
Like on the Steam Deck, that's a luxury feature.
On the Sony, I mean, it's more expensive. And so, and Sony did the focus group test, and you guys clearly were not in the focus group, but they decided that the matte screen won the day for consumer preferences based, I guess, on the viewing environment. Okay, now let's get to some gaming. Anonymous, I know you waited patiently to ask this question, so let's hit it. Which is better for gaming? I play FPS, first-person shooter online. So here's the good news. If you do first-person shooter online, I'm assuming it's SDR, right? Because HDR adds a little bit of delay if you're processing that. So if you're doing first shooter SDR online, maximum latency, minimum latency, maximum response time, the G5 has completely improved its SDR gaming. You now can do peak brightness. It matches the S95F easily.
So the slider or not a slider, it's a low, medium, high. In SDR and all LG OLEDs of the past, that was locked and grayed out in SDR. Yesterday we discovered that is unlocked, so you can actually bring the SDR brightness to max, and you can bring it up to levels. So that SDR did match the other TVs, the QD OLEDs. I would say, other than if you're fearful of the one connect box, that's still something people are a little afraid of. They were definitely equal in terms of their image quality. I would still give the edge color-wise to the QD OLEDs. They still had a little bit more saturation and warmth. But the HDR impact still went back over to the G5. G5 was definitely brighter almost all the time.
Yes, agreed. And again, if you slowed down, the S95 really showed the occasional luminance superiority, but we really had to pause and
you had to look for it. Yeah.
So but to be fair, the games we chose, what games were we looking at?
So we did Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Forbidden West. We did F1. So today we'll have PC. We'll have a 4090. You know, we'll see how that works. I have to connect them behind. I have to move the TVs out to
Right.
get behind them. That's kind of the hard part.
And we'll do a little bit of Black Myth Wukong maybe.
We'll do it on PC. Yeah.
Perfect.
So it won't be. It'll be up. We'll see how these do. But the gaming part of it is they're both. These are the best gaming TVs in the world. I mean, it's really they both are 165. They're gorgeous. I would say where I would give the edge to the QD OLED is that you can still put things like advanced contrast on. You can a lot of things that are grayed out on the G series are all open on the S95. So you can always take it brighter and brighter and make it as crazy as you want. If you want a Samsung, you want to be able to make it saturated.
Yeah.
You have a lot of room to do that, and the G5 won't. You can't put an advanced contrast enhancer or dynamic contrast enhancer on, so you can put that on.
And here we have a question from James Garrett. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. We found your question. Now, as it pertains to the Starfield, contrast ratio should be the same. But is it just YouTube, or does the specular highlights look better on the Samsung? So let's start with the contrast ratio, because we have two discussions here. The contrast ratio is slightly worse on the Samsung. Go to the ratings, RTings, how we're going to pronounce it. They just completely revamped their anti-glare coating test, and they demonstrated that the S95D anti-glare coating hurt contrast ratio. Doesn't matter in what content, right? Starfield or not. So for a fact, the contrast ratio drops just a little bit. However, given all of that, when you have content like this, and then you have specular highlights, the Samsung doesn't always beat the G5, because I had my sensor is always managing the exposure. So I know which parts of the TV are overexposed, underexposed, and all that. The G5 and the S95F literally neck and neck in every scene. Occasionally there may be one scene where the G5 specular highlight's slightly brighter, but there are some scenes where the S95F, a specular highlight might be slightly better, but it is so close. We're talking half a stop difference at best. I think it's negligible, because when the highlights are that small and they're that close, you will not notice the difference. Yeah. So if you use a meter on a white light against black, the Samsung may have brighter specular highlight. However, if you lose contrast ratio,
that means
that means nothing.
Yeah. And you won't be able to see it by eye.
Yeah.
By eye, it's not going to be as that. And that's unfortunately that's really going to become the story of these two TVs, which is unfortunate because the base technologies are freaking incredible.
Yes.
But when you're talking about a matte screen or anti-glare being the biggest part of the conversation, it really is a no bueno.
No bueno.
And for a lot of people, we had Luke here yesterday and Tony from our community, and he really grew to appreciate the anti-glare for gaming.
But then he switched again.
And then he went, and once he saw the SDR unlocked on the G5,
he's a gamer.
He was like, wait a second. But he saw and I wish you guys could see the anti-glare is not the glare you used to have on IPS monitors or old TN monitors.
Oh, this is cutting edge.
It's cutting edge. So doesn't mean we love it. We just understand it better. And some people do love it. If you're in the chat now and you do like it, don't be afraid to say you like it, because it does have a certain use case.
Yeah. And speaking of use case, thank you, Kenneth Williams, for the super chat. And we invite you guys to ask questions as well. If we miss it, keep on asking. Kenneth asks, I have a 77-inch G5 now.
Wow, good for you. You're a cutting edge. You have it before me.
Literally, you're one of the few that got it in the last 2 weeks.
You are, yeah.
Congratulations. I'm 12 feet away, and I cannot see myself at all on a gray couch.
In fairness, you're very far away.
Yeah.
12 feet's pretty far away.
What? Where are you?
Yeah.
4-inch ceiling lights on, no matter the content, dark lights. So this is my experience as well, honestly. When you have real content, you don't see the reflection on the G5. It's when earlier you saw those star fields and stuff, right? If there are bright lights behind you, that's when you see it. And if the TV is off, you may notice yourself in the reflection, but I'm used to it. Not a big deal.
So in fairness, the G4 and G5 have the best anti-glare among glossy screens in the industry. They do. I mean, my A80L is a mirror. I mean, I can't see myself all the time. But, so the G series does. I just love that they're able to still keep it glossy. Mm-hmm. There were times where we saw the black bars where they were actually brown on the S95F because the magenta tint showed up as a brown.
Yes. And how whether that's QD OLED as a technology that's doing that, or the actual anti-glare,
it's the two of them together.
Yeah. But you did see color shift near black, and it showed off as slightly brown.
Yeah, because I think if it was a W OLED that was Matte, it would have been black, but more of a grayish, but
Yep.
because of the underlying technology. You see it now a little bit. It's like a light brown.
Yeah.
But for what it does great, as far as, here's the thing, FOMO, these lights above us, these lamps, they were invisible the entire day. You never saw them in the on the QD OLEDs at all.
That is true.
I mean, not once. So, and FOMO had his, we can't do it here, but if you look at yesterday's stream, he had a flashlight behind me and in front of me, invisible on the QD OLEDs, but you could see it legitimately on the G series.
And if you guys are wondering the color differences, we're seeing the same color differences. Remember, Cinema Home and Standard Worm 2, these are the TV's interpretation of what this should be.
Yeah.
This is not accurate.
No.
If you want it to be accurate, we put it in Filmmaker, they would nearly
Yeah,
be
perfect.
identical because that's what we saw before. In the most accurate modes, they're spot on with each other. It's just they're doing their own thing. Just in case, because I know a lot of people are probably going to comment, oh my gosh, the colors are different.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
seeing a
well-
bit richer blues as well.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
and-
not, neither of them are truly accurate.
Well, and the two different technologies always look a little different on camera. So
Yeah.
your camera's doing a
Yeah,
good job.
and my camera is hypersensitive to blues on WOLED.
But it's,
right?
yours is doing a great job compared
Oh
to.
no, I think it looks identical. I mean, it's nearly identical. I don't have any complaints about the accuracy of the color.
So
as
we're
far
in,
as
so
my
yeah. So now
sensors
we're in
are.
Filmmaker mode. The dynamic tone mapping is off on the G series, and then we have static on the
So you're in
on the
filmmaker
S90.
mode
Yeah, on both.
with no DTM, right?
No DTM on the G5, and then we have a static tone mapping on the
and static here.
S95F. Well, I'll say that they actually both look phenomenal. Filmmaker one.
Yeah,
There wasn't
I-
really
no
a time,
complaints.
unless it's in a very very bright room. Filmmaker mode looks really good on all the TVs now. I think they have pop to them.
They do. All right. Now, Max has a great question.
What's up,
Thank you
Max?
for that super chat, my friend. Max Overdrive asks, which of these two has better shadow detail?
Great question.
So I'll start off with, we saw the G5 slightly lifted. That will give G5 better shadow detail. Now, maybe it may be less accurate because it shouldn't be that visible. However, because the G5 is slightly lifted and inaccurately so, ever so slightly, and it's noticeable if you watch the stream, you would see certain scenes where that is,
One piece of content.
quote unquote, it has better shadow detail, but it's like saying, which is the brighter TV? Well,
Yeah.
this one, but it's inaccurately too bright, right? So the G5 doesn't have problems with shadow detail. The S95F, I cannot say if it's over darkening or not because neither have been calibrated and I don't have the numbers on that. But if you calibrate the S95F, it will be 100% accurate. It's been consistent among the reviewers who have calibrated. You can get it very good near shadow. So if you want perfect shadow detail that's accurate, you can calibrate that on the S95F. The G5 right now, you cannot. That needs a firmware update to get it to that level. So if 100% absolute accuracy is important to you, then you might want to wait for a firmware update. But
Yeah.
if you're just looking for shadow detail, G5 is fine.
Well, the problem back with shadow detail, FOMO, is that depending on the light conditions of the room, that's going to be affected as well by the screen.
Yeah.
There's times where it does look like it's graying out the detail because it's the light of the room versus the screen. So the screen is really going to be an ongoing part of the conversation because it'll never be like for like. Even though they're different technologies, the screen surfaces are so different.
Yeah. And I want to give some context to this comment. Prime says, hey, the S95F looks better in colors now. G5 has a green tint problem.
I've not
And it's-
noticed any problem with green tint on the
So,
G5 at all. I mean,
It's a WOLED thing, though. I want to
yeah,
say.
but I don't. I mean, I'm not. It's not something I noticed, but I don't think
Right.
it's a big problem. And I thought it was overly blown out for LG. Though we can't buy it, it's green. I mean, I have the C4
Panel lottery. I would say that as well.
I have not noticed the big problem.
But this is the balance I want to give. The S95F has the magenta problem.
Yeah.
So you got to choose your poison. If you're going to say the G5 has a greenish tint problem, then you have to recognize that the S95F has a magenta brown tint problem. Dark scenes, you have light in the room. Now, in a completely black room, maybe not. But most people, if you're getting this TV and you're in a normally lit room, you're going to have that slight color shift on the S95F that cannot be fixed with calibration. Whereas the G5 greenish tint problem may be hopefully offset with it. But yeah, each native panel has their own innate issues.
Always. Yep.
It is what it is. You just have to accept what is most annoying to you. Now, personally, I did not see a green tint problem. So if you're seeing it on your screen, on your TV, it could be the way my sensor, YouTube, and your TV is showing it, but we're not seeing it here.
No.
Now, we did put it on uniformity test during the stream, and we saw a slight pink tint on the G5, but It was very slight. It was a pure white. That's the only time we saw it.
Here are the big differences in white that we saw yesterday.
This is a great one. Yeah. And let this one run because I love seeing this. They're both of similar brightness. So the S95F, when it calls for it, can get bright. It's when the G5 can be pushed harder if you need to. So because this is in Filmmaker, the whites are identical because the creator only asked for maybe 100 to 200 nits.
But they change throughout. It'll go up to a couple thousand nits.
Yeah.
4,000 nits.
But in sports SDR, if you need to push it brighter, the G5 will do it better than S95F.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, we have a model that we didn't have today, but you had that model, and someone's asking about the S90F. Just what you've seen today, what you've seen in your studio, because you took the S90F home.
Yep.
Does the S90F have a matte finish like the S95F?
No, it's very glossy.
Good news.
It's very glossy. I would tell you, FOMO, I think that the 83 S90F might have a little bit of the anti-glare, because when we were at CES, you remember those charts that were attached to each table and it said the different levels? So I think the 83 might have a little bit of a, not matte, but probably similar to the QN90. But I thought it was super glossy. My reflection, my video will be back up tomorrow, you'll see that it's very glossy. The problem is, again, I think the processing's better on the S95, and I think the image quality is better on the S95. So it's not as simple as just get the S90, call it a day.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Samsung has been guilty of crippling the S90 due to updates throughout the year. Not the S95, but the S90.
Yes.
So it just happens.
By software, not by hardware
software,
necessarily.
By software.
Because they have to separate, they have to give you a reason to buy the S95F.
Yeah.
1, slightly brighter. 2, slightly better processing, as if we could tell the difference. I don't think you can. And of course, the cheaper gloss versus a more expensive matte. So those getting the S95F, you get the One Connect box, the better matte.
Yep.
If you assume it's better, and the slightly brighter details. But gamers are still being recommended to get the S90F because you don't have the One Connect box
just right
limitation.
Direct.
Just straight in.
And it's a more traditional looking OLED. I mean, it's a beautiful TV. I just recommend if you're going to get it, it's external and get it offline.
Yeah.
Don't leave it online.
And Jersey asks, if you were to purchase one, which one will you choose? That's the most important question, considering everything is all the same, room lights and everything. But we have to consider our room lights and whatnot. So I'll answer this first and I'll throw it to you. My reference TV last year was the S95D, the S95D. I really liked what it looked like in my completely dark room, my studio, right? However, I plan to get a TV for a normal living room environment. That makes the G5 my reference this year. I like this TV a lot. HDR impact is there. I recognize I may lose some of the color nuances, but if I were to choose one of the two, I have to say I love HDR impact, and that's my preference. It's subjective. Many people prefer deeper color saturations. That's great. Then get the TV that gives you that. I just want that HDR impact. So for me this year, and I'm not a huge gamer, I play on a PS5 Pro. That means either TV will ace PS5 Pro content. So for me, it would be the G5 any size. Brian?
Yeah, for me, the G5 is still the way to go. It's just I like the way their processing is. I do prefer the Alpha 11 processor. I do notice a difference with upscaling. I do notice a difference between the S95 upscaling and S90 upscaling. There's something that's a little bit loose with the S90 versus the S95. Again, it comes down to screen. I have to get the G5 by default as I'm at the 83-inch size. I believe if there was an 83-inch QD OLED, I've already committed online that I would have gotten that this year. Even though that's a 4-stack this year, the coating is something I will stay away from. I will go for the glossy G5. If they were the same size, if they were the same size and the S95F was glossy, I would go with the QD OLED. I like the color and the brightness, but without them side by side, FOMO, I would not notice the color. The colors are beautiful on the G5, very saturated.
Yeah,
and we did see with the G4 FOMO, we saw where the color did disappear.
Actually, let's stop there because the G4 has been my go-to recommendation to save money. In most content, the G4 was right there.
It was awesome. Yeah.
But when you had more challenging content that was slightly brighter,
flames,
with
definitely
deeper colors, flames, then the G4 fell behind in color saturation. And that was its weakness last year. And that's why I didn't choose it. That's why I chose the S95D.
So when you look at flames, if we get into a scene like like here, if we pause this flame, which is actually a few thousand nits, the G5 is right there with the S95F, but the G4 in the middle of the flames would be a little bit more white. And if we increase that peak brightness to say 5,000 or 6,000 nits, it would have been white.
Yeah.
And the other two were able to hold that color. Now the G5 still didn't match the S95. It still was a little bit warmer.
Yep.
And we didn't even mention this at the beginning of the stream. There's a reason why we don't have all the same sizes. If anybody could match the sizes, it would be Robert and Wendy. If we had two 65s, we'd put them up here. The reason why we have a 75 is the only one that's available. And the reason why we have the 65, it's the only one that's available.
So let's say, when is the 65 available? In 2 weeks. So I'll be getting my 65 in 2 weeks, and many of you may be getting it next week, but the 65 is definitely coming later.
A little later. Yep.
7783 are here in inventory at Electronics as well as elsewhere. So if you want the larger size, boom.
Yeah, and they just got some in right now. They're the first to have them.
Oh, and they're selling them out.
Yeah.
The 7783 are just flying off the shelves.
And the fact is, what's so amazing about being in this store today is that you're never going to see these TVs compared again. I mean, there's no retailer that's got 83s in anyway, but having an 83 and a 77 here is incredible.
Speaking of 77, this is a great question for you, Max Overdrive. Thanks for the follow-up, Brian. If you want a 77-inch, are you taking the S95F then over the G5?
I may have. The two things that would have been holding me back, though, are the One Connect, because I'll be gaming at 165. I'm a little nervous about dropouts. I don't think S95D had problems with it.
We're going to test it today. We're going to try if we have time.
But it may be, that still is one of those,
Well, yeah, you bring it home and suddenly you got to drop it.
The dirtiest word is intermittent when it comes to that. But the screen, I would have risked it this year at 83, so maybe I would have if I'm at 77. It's just, I'm in a dark room if it's my house. I do like the QD OLED, so I'm not going to lie. So I think I might have moved over.
I think you would have.
Is Phil Holland out here?
What?
Is that Phil Holland?
Oh, that is Phil Holland.
Phil Holland, what's up, man?
Hey, if you guys don't know, Phil Holland.
We got celebrities in the chat.
Filmmaker extraordinaire. He does so many of the Apple screens that you guys see.
Yeah, can you put him on the screen? Oh, there he is. Put him on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Robert's saying hello. We'll get to your hater in a second.
Phil, what's up?
How do you feel? Okay, wait, let's answer this question since it's so rare we have a celebrity.
And since this celebrity
Mr. Hollywood.
It's very important. He was saying something the other day. He was talking about the Val Kilmer. And Phil on Facebook was like, yeah, I remember meeting him on this shoot and this shoot and this shoot. So Phil is a legend, hanging off helicopters. What's up, Phil?
And he turned us on to how close to sit to a TV. He did the necessary research where you guys are sitting way too far. That's right. I found out sitting 6 feet away from a 77-inch TV, oh my gosh, immersion, no headache.
No.
Thank you, Phil. I'm sitting 6 feet from a 77-inch TV.
Well, and I tell you, and Phil's the only person that's really, he showed us what real 8K content. I'm telling you.
And that's why you have to sit 6 feet from a 7. If you have an 8K TV.
Phil, if 8K content was actually out there to watch, it would have won.
Well, he only buys 8K TVs now. It's got to be an 8K OLED, though, my friend.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about detail rendering between the two, as well as deep shadow detail reproduction? So this is where the S95F occasionally led
for the moment. Yeah,
for the moment. So in gaming,
yeah.
But in certain scenes, the G5 did it because of sharpening. Now this is where the shootout comes in, without pausing and spending an hour inspecting whether it was sharpening or native to the content, and one of them just processed it better. So during the shootout, we'll have a more final answer. But right now, it appears that in-game content where the animation is very sharp, occasionally the S95F appeared to have rendered it slightly better in terms of that contrast. The details are all there on the G5, but it just felt that contrast was better on the S95F in Ghost of Tsushima, right? On his back. But then in some scenes where the lighting changed, it was identical. Yeah. So it's hard to say. But then on the G5, there was a Spears and Munsell scene where the G5 looked sharper, and we're wondering, was it sharpening?
It was.
I know S95F has sharpening too.
What it was? It was on the trees where the details were actually missing on the other TVs, including the G4. So I think, Phil, it's kind of like what the Sony was doing, which I think you picked up on the shootout a couple of years ago, was where professional mode is going to add the edge enhancement, and you may not like that. And if that's the case, I would wait for the Panasonic Z95B.
As to the deep shadow detail reproduction, I'm going to have to discount the S95F because of the raised contrast. And if you're in
the screen neutralizes it, even if it is there.
If you're in a semi-dark room, any light may affect it. And if even in a completely dark room, the issue is, does the brightness of the content affect? I mean, we don't know. And it just, to play it safe, if you're in a light controlled room anyway, the 100% black gloss of the G5 wins the day. Unfortunately, G5 has slightly raised shadow detail. Although it does perfect blacks, that bump, the stimulus that's just above black, right now the G5 cannot do. So it doesn't have deep shadow detail either. So right now, neither of them could do it. So I will say we have to wait for the Bravia 8 to see how they do, because they are glossy, and the Panasonic. But deep shadow accuracy both fail right now.
Well, and we're early days. I mean, these TVs,
yeah, there's a firmware
these
coming
bad
up on the
boys
G5.
That's the only disadvantage. That's it. That's the only disadvantage we have at Value Electronics is a lot of times they're still in the oven. We're taking the cookies out of the oven a little early.
We're tasting the dough. Wow,
Right,
the dough tastes great.
Sometimes you get the TV so early. I'm like, I can't do this a review because I have it before Sony had it.
Also, Dwayne Davis told me that he guarantees that he can fix that coming out of blackish
on the G5.
So if you get it calibrated,
and it is pretty minor, by the way.
It is minor. And, well, but you saw the difference out of the box. It has to be. If it bothers
you got to put it in the right picture mode. You know.
Well, no, it was in Filmmaker.
Filmmaker.
But the issue was, it is raised.
Yes,
and if calibration can fix it, great.
And it was, I'd say, it was in one
and
piece.
LG Engineering knows about it, so
they said that at the end of the April they would do it. Yeah. So they say.
But keep in mind, guys, that was 7.5 hours of on camera, and it was really in one piece of content that we saw.
That's right.
Any content where you have that slight gray just above black, that's when it happened. And so it's very specific to that. But for someone like Phil, whose career depends on perfect blacks, and he's using this as a client monitor for himself.
I just wonder if Phil, if you
don't get either TV.
So Phil, if you're still here,
unless you get it calibrated with Robert, then
yeah. So Phil, if you're still in the chat though, answer me this: for you as a professional, does the matte anti-glare screen affect your work? Is that something that, if you've had a chance to see these, you probably haven't, but is that something that would affect your decision making? Because I know you've worked with all kinds of monitors that attach the cameras.
Yeah.
Would that matte mess with you or change? Because your eye is so fine, detail-wise.
Sure. And or the color shift, that magenta brown color shift, that may be a no bueno.
Could be.
That could be deal breaker.
Also, he's filming freaking in the desert on a helicopter. He's probably like, I don't even look at the damn thing.
Put on my shoot.
Thanks for dropping by, Phil.
Hey, thanks. Well, here's the super chat. So we answered
Anomaly's question. Very generous of you.
Thank you for answering my question, and great work as always.
Our pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was very generous of you.
And Mark J, thank you for the super chat. G5 OLED in a very bright room. We're talking very good enough, good, or absolutely awesome nowadays. Brightness as good as modern day high-end mini LEDs. Yes, absolutely. I know you got the TCLs and Hisense coming out with 5,000, 6,000 nits, and they're trying to just brute force their way into the premium market. But I'll tell you right now, we are in a very bright room, and I've seen the G5 or the G4 in brighter rooms. The G4 nailed it in those rooms, and so the G5 is more than better than equipped to do that, because it is even brighter than the G4. So we're definitely there as far as LG OLED, and S95F is there for brightness, but then that matte ends up
it just turns, well, if the lights touch it, it turns white. But also, FOMO, you know, we talk about, as much as these mini LEDs are going to push 5,000 nits, without the contrast ratio, it's just going to be flat.
Yeah. And I want to answer this question by Hater, because it's something we did yesterday. Thanks for bringing this up. On the LG G5, Cinema Home versus Filmmaker. So what I did was I compared Cinema Home in this bright room to Filmmaker with the dynamic tone mapping on, right? That's the only change. I found that to be more pleasant. It got me the brightness I needed. The difference is in Cinema Home, they changed the gamma. It felt like everything was washed out. I mean, I know by lowering the gamma,
a little brighter.
You made everything a little bit brighter, from the low brightness all the way up through the midtones, but they did it too much. It looked like SDR. I lost the HDR impact. I lost some contrast by them lowering the gamma that much in Cinema Home. So and this was in a bright room. I didn't think I'd like Filmmaker as much in this bright room, but once I turned on active, G5 nailed it, and the G4 could not do that. So the G4 with dynamic tone mapping on does not do that. If you're in a bright room and you want Filmmaker active, the G5, perfect for that. Cinema Home is an option, right? They preserve the color accuracy and all that, but I think that that gamma adjustment was not very well. It didn't please my eye. This is all subjective. I'm not talking about accuracy. Well, the Filmmaker is more accurate, actually. It is more accurate to the HDR intent of contrast. The Cinema Home made it more flat. So if you guys want 3D pop, you gotta go Filmmaker, turn on active, and then play with contrast, auto contrast enhancers to taste, but I'd leave that off. Cinema Home, default, you're gonna have to tweak it to make it look good, but if you're gonna tweak it that much, might as well use Filmmaker and just turn on active. So hopefully that answers your question, Hater. And unfortunately, G4 does not have the same dynamic tone mapping algorithm as what the G5 has. Consistently, I've seen the DTM on the G4 be less effective to the way I want it.
It's a little more wild.
Yeah, it's unpredictable, but the G5 is more consistent with that. So, but great question. That's something I wanted to revisit. And we have a super chat from Gadget Freaky. There you go. Thank you, Gadget. Worth it to upgrade to a G5 83-inch from a G2 83-inch?
Yes.
The brightness, contrast, processing, gaming across the board. They're both OLEDs, but if he's only watching Columbo, I don't know.
G2 is pre-MLA? No. G2.
Yeah, it was. G2 does not have MLA.
So
That's like a C2.
So G2 was a brighter by software.
Wait, Brian.
It was the Evo panel.
Would you consider the G5 97, which is essentially the G2 97?
We always recommend the 97-inch OLEDs for the simple fact that they're the biggest consumer OLEDs and they're going to blow away any mini LED.
And it's immersion.
And it's immersion.
But he's going from 83 to 97, though.
So, yeah. So you're in the same boat as me. I'm going from 83 to 83. But if you need 97, the 83 can't get larger.
So, Gadget Freaky, I think the last question is key. How much brightness is lost on the 97 panel versus 83 G5? A lot.
Yeah, it's in half.
Maybe even triple. Yeah. I mean, the brightness gains
so
since the G2
we had the
higher.
97-inch here, which is gorgeous, but I had the S95D next to it, and I didn't compare them because they looked even though the G looked so beautiful at 97, the brightness didn't look good on camera. It was such a difference in brightness. But here's what we should do is because you're going from the G2 to a G5, the brightness will be very similar. You'll just get the much larger. If you're okay with the larger...
Well, no, yeah, G2 to the 97, you mean? G2 83?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think if you've never really witnessed the G5...
You're not losing anything.
You're not losing anything.
But you'll be
very happy with the size. But the 83, if you need bigger, it can't get bigger.
So actually, I'm leaning with you now. Going from the G2 83 to the G5 97, you'll get the brightness booster. That is software, algorithmic, and then the generation to generation
processing.
Evo OLED
And you get the processing is better.
The extra bit
a lot better actually.
Of thermal.
The menu's
cooling.
better. Yep.
I would recommend going G283 to G5 97, but if you had MLA, I would not.
I would tell you right now, you're better off going with the G4 97 or even the G2. I mean, those TVs are still available. They're much cheaper.
But the man's swimming in money.
If you got money, yeah. I mean, right now, when's the G5 available at 97, Robert? Because the G4 only came out a few months ago.
The G5 97 is coming very, very soon. I think the end of next week.
That's actually annoying because the G4 97 came out so late in the year.
I know, not this time.
All right, so the G5 will be available, but what's the G5? You think 23? Probably
20,000.
So it's 20 grand.
Yep.
But
plus the 10% store credit.
What about the G4 at 97?
20,000, same price.
Actually, then G5 for you. But if you go through Value Electronics, get 10% store credit.
That's
right.
$2,000 store credit. Oh boy.
No,
that 10% really does add up when it's 20 grand.
Here's a great question because PS5 is is the #1 gaming platform.
Yeah, we have it over there. It was on yesterday's stream.
We spent all day testing. So PS5 Pro, G5 good. It's excellent. With SDR now covered, any game you want to play in the PS5 Pro. Old games, it's SDR only.
Yeah, they look beautiful.
It's beautiful. No complaints. I would choose it for gaming myself. Brian definitely did.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, they're both amazing. I mean, but actually, I'll tell you, the matte screen or the anti-glare screen was great for gaming because the lights were changing here and it looked like a freaking painting.
Yes. Okay, wait. G5 is zoomed in. No, the G5 is slightly bigger. Now
you think we have a camera that is that That is,
It's zooming one TV.
we got two. Yeah, we should have said that the G5 is 77, and the G. And
I
the
have a label. So tone P of tone P. It's not fair. Notice the only thing we're actually evaluating that affected the S95F negatively is the anti-glare screen. I don't care if it's the same size, smaller or larger. That anti-glare does not change with size, and the brightness impact
is
it is. It
they
doesn't
are
matter
what
the
they
size.
are. If these were LEDs, you'd be absolutely right. This is not the case with OLEDs. I can put up a other than 42 inches, I put a 55 up there. They're going to look the same.
And really, if you took away the anti-glare issues, it would have been a tie.
Yeah.
Remember, this whole HDR impact thing, the G5 pushes it brighter in a slightly larger window, but I use my camera to check the actual exposure sensor. And the exposure on the G5 in certain scenes consistently, it went a little bit brighter. In Filmmaker mode, static, and no DTM, to bright content that require the TVs to go beyond what they're capable of, the S95F chose to tone map a little bit harder, so you don't lose color. And like I said, if that's important to you, the S95F wins. Or the G5, willing to let more color clip so they can go brighter to the creator's intent for impact. If that's important to you, the G5 wins. And I was very clear.
Yeah.
Color saturation, the S95F is slightly better.
Yep.
So it's a fair comparison still if color is important to you.
Yeah.
You want to win everything?
Well, the challenge is, too, because the G5's reflection handling is so good, it really takes away any real advantage of the...
Wait. Clearly, we're LG shills. They're intentionally
This is the same guy that said that we were zoomed in. Is a different guy.
It's a different guy, right?
These guys are intentionally making G5 look to have... How do I do that to make it look more detailed?
Because it's quote-unquote... And didn't we say the S95F won the detail?
We actually, yeah.
Didn't I say that? Didn't I tell you the S95F had better contrast and detail?
First of all, if you're jumping in and thinking that, then you're clearly new to our... We did 7 hours.
Yes.
Go back and watch the 7 hours, please, and tell me that we're...
And don't forget, the S95D...
It's not going to be brighter. Kevin, the bigger S95F is not...
Well, you know why they're saying, quote-unquote, it's a brighter TV? So someone mentioned yesterday that Vincent did a full screen
on the 83,
whatever.
On the 83, but the 83 is the same technology as the G5.
It's a primary RGB OLED.
Yeah, so it's going to be brighter because they're the same technology. This is a QD OLED versus...
And content is different.
Yeah.
So,
but the reason why the 83
I love fanboys.
But the reason
cannot be objective.
But the reason the 83 inch is brighter is because it's a 4-stack tandem OLED, not because it's a QD OLED. You want to know the difference between a QD OLED and a tandem OLED, don't you? And that's what we're doing. If you want to see the difference between those two, we'll just put two G5s next to each other.
Yep.
See how they look.
And this is a great point I want to mention, which is, hey guys, here's a weird thing I noticed when I was at Valley Electronics. It seemed like the G4 displayed people that had lighter skin more accurately, and the G5 displayed people with darker complexions better. So none of these TVs, first of all, you have panel lottery, and these TVs are not calibrated.
And what content, though? Because we really didn't have any real people on the screen yesterday.
Right.
It was a lot of AI. We had a lot of... So we didn't really do a skin tone yesterday for the reason of the camera.
And we don't know what accurate is without a reference monitor. So DP, that's another issue, is when the colors are subtly different. You may be correct. However, you need a reference monitor, and that's why you have to know which is which. You got to calibrate the TVs first, calibrate the reference monitor, then see, all right, now we can do it. And that's what the shootout is for. So we're addressing the general population that first, you're not planning to calibrate any of these TVs. It's out of the box. It's what you find more pleasant. And if DP finds the G4 more pleasant, get the G4, because to you, that's more pleasant. Now, if you find that reference is not pleasant, then don't get the TV that's closest to reference out of the box, because there's no right answer here. A lot of people love the D65. They want the creator's intent. They were going to get it fully calibrated, while others like, you know what, these are such great TVs. Just get me the cheaper TV. So yeah, just to remind you that because neither TVs are calibrated and you're subject to the panel lottery, every TV will look slightly different, even if it's the same model. So if you have two G4s next to each other,
they can look different.
They may slightly look different, uncalibrated.
These guys are giving it more detail.
I know. Yes, I want the G5 to win so badly.
Like we care.
Because LG is going to treat me to dinner.
I mean, these guys like we care. If any, neither one of these companies is in love with us. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
It doesn't matter, guys.
Well, to be fair, I've been trying to reach out to LG to get a review unit. They haven't even responded to my email. They're like,
it's like the checks in the mail. It's like the reviews in the mail.
So trust me when I say
they're not doing us any favors.
We try to work with LG to get review, and that's why we're here. Yeah. Because LG, it takes forever to get review units.
And look, I know we have friends at all of them, but it's not like anybody's.
Okay, Brian, do you know how to check the overscan on the G5? You want to do it again? Because yesterday, apparently, the G5 puts itself into overscan. We corrected it, by the way. And if it goes back, then you have to check overscan all the time on the G5. Because if you guys saw the stream, we had to correct the overscan midway through. So we'll check it again. But if it goes back, it's not us. It's the G5. And that's an issue the G5 needs to address. Why are you overscanning?
Where was that? That was in...
settings?
Yeah, but it wasn't... I forgot where it was. It's in the aspect ratio.
Auto.
It's an auto.
So
why does it put itself back into auto?
So wait. So let's stop.
You want it in on. Just scan.
Do you want off? Does off? Wait, put it on or off?
Off.
Look at the picture change. Go from so it was on auto.
So auto is actually what the content is calling for. But off is what people want. Just scan on.
So you want on?
That's you want.
What does off look like? Let's look at what off looks like.
I think off will look like.
Well, I mean, shouldn't it be off? Just go to just scan. Go to just scan. Okay, let's compare them.
So here's
auto.
Here's off, which is
off looks bigger.
Off is smaller. Wait. Auto. On is out.
So on makes it smaller.
And off is in.
Off is in.
So auto and off are the same.
Okay, so let me tell you guys this. How many of you would leave it on auto thinking, well, auto, that must be a good thing, right? And by the way...
Yeah, so you would think that, actually.
But the TV was on... What did you leave it on yesterday?
It was on auto.
It was on auto. So the TV, because we had it...
So just scan is forcing it to do something. It's to make it all look the same way.
Right.
So if you wanted to zoom out...
actually, zoom out and in, and look at the subtle difference. It's not like, you're so close.
It's not like I have to redo the whole thing because of that. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Well, actually, I don't even know what is right. Because why would LG put
auto should be the right one.
So it was on auto the whole time.
We changed it yesterday, and for some reason...
And so what is scan doing? It's zooming in by a touch. An inch? But why would it do that?
I don't know why. It's actually, that's available because there's times where you'll see the edges of a screen, and it's there to knock that out.
Okay, so Tone wants on. So let's just do on. Just because this will quiet the criticism, and then people criticize us for
you want on.
Just put it on, because I don't care. You make it sound like we have an agenda. I don't
give a crap.
And to be honest, whatever comes out of the box, you leave it in the box. So if LG says we're going to leave it on auto because it looks better, what am I go in there and start to what is it? Set it up for failure? Well, LG's like, well, we left it on auto for a reason.
You're actually getting triggered a little bit.
I am, because I get so mad when and I'm not talking about...
Wait, hold on, Tone, you want it on no overscan? So you want
on. On is no overscan. So he wants it on.
Think about how counterintuitive is that. On means no overscan. I see what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is...
on is just scan, you're right.
If LG puts it on auto out of the box, then it's what is supposed to be best.
Tone, you're good, bro.
And if you're telling me the auto is bad, then LG is purposely... what? They're cannibalizing their own sales by putting on auto. So that's LG's fault.
They're trying to sell bigger TVs.
They're selling. I know they're trying to sell Zoom. No, the best.
No,
one,
Tone, we're not saying that you're coming at us.
No. The best one is. The best one is what's it called? Red Pill.
What was Red Pill? Oh,
hey, hold down the home button.
You guys missed a Red Pill yesterday. You guys were here. Red Pill's like, in order to get right to the to get to the settings, hold down home, and home zoomed in the whole screen. We couldn't even get out of it. I didn't even know it was a feature.
You turn it on and off. And Tone P, we're not going after you directly, right?
I mean,
what we're telling you is actually for even the TV company to have this at all puzzles me, because the difference is so subtle.
Yeah, and
So
and
subtle.
Tone,
Why
in
even
fairness,
have it?
we did 8 hours live yesterday. So,
we had both.
you know, it ends up getting to where people do come after us for the most random thing. And that's why
Yeah.
the gaming thing, we're gonna touch on it. We're not gonna dedicate a lot of time because we can jump through hoops and we're not gonna please everybody, especially getting into PC gaming. We're gonna see if it functions. That's about it.
Yeah.
We'll run some games on it.
And I'm going to address this real quick. The reason I don't like still images, Tone, is the TVs are literally measuring seconds, if not milliseconds, of how an image is. And especially on OLED, the minute it hits 3 seconds, there's a certain trigger.
Yep.
10 seconds, there's a trigger.
Yep.
5 minutes. And any still image on any OLED will completely change in luminance, this and that, because it's protecting
Yeah, they're
itself.
protecting themselves, yeah.
And I think, and also it thinks it's being measured, which is another thing I hate. These TVs are so smart. If they think they're being measured,
They'll boost.
they will outperform what they normally do.
Well, look at LEDs at times will do that. There's times where LEDs local dimming disappears when it's paused, or if you're in a menu.
Yeah. And Classy is adding some clarity. Thank you,
What's up,
Classy,
Classy?
for this. The matrix switch is like stripping the signal, so it's overscanning by default, whereas if the source was plugged directly to the TV, it should not overscan. And that's another thing. If both TVs are overscanning, then it should be an even playing field. So they both would be blurry, right? I don't know.
Yeah, well.
But I'm just, yeah, thank you for that. And that's another issue is when you're comparing TVs, then you have to go into the source and make sure you don't overscan, and that leads to another set of confusion. One TV's auto is another TV's off, is another TV's on.
Yeah.
Because it's not clear what the heck
Yeah,
you're
well, we
doing.
saw this years ago with mini LEDs FOMO. You'd be like a Netflix menu. One TV's local dimming would still be enabled. The other one have blooming, and it's really just that Sony started that where they would turn the content on, the local dimming would kick on. So
Yeah. Now,
thanks, Tom. We appreciate it. Thanks for having a conversation with us.
And
What's up, Michael?
this is important for us to know these. I don't want to swear, but these features to me are so superfluous, and it just makes things more difficult for consumers. As a consumer
Yeah.
advocate, it's like, wow,
well,
it's overscanning. It must not be a great TV.
So the
I'm like,
funny
wait,
the funny
what?
thing is, we saw this yesterday with a couple of guys that were here. LG's settings were definitely more complicated as far as going through the pages, but Tizen has a little bit of a jungle of settings that don't say what they are. So we tried doing that. You're trying to find the HDIG version of it. And next thing you know it, you're in 5 different menus, and you're turning off HDR when it says basic. It can get really into a problem.
Yeah, becomes a burden, right? And Michael, hey, we got to bring another brand because the Bravia 8 Mark II or II, I'm going to call it
It's a lot
Bravia
brighter,
8
Michael. You've seen
II.
it.
It is a lot brighter than the A95L and noticeably brighter than the G4. But when I say noticeable, it's because in the right content, you see the difference. However, we have not seen it side by side with the G5.
Yeah. So every comparison we've seen comparisons at LG, we've seen them at Samsung, we've seen them at Sony. Every comparison was their model this year versus last year's. So yes, every current model blows away last year's model. But when we see them together, now keep in mind the Bravia 8 Mark II is still going to limit its brightness to keep it accurate.
Yeah.
So in Filmmaker, Professional, they'll look great. I promise you, once you get out of standard into those other presets, that's just a signature.
Yeah. Now,
The detail was evident though on the Mark II. I thought that was different.
Absolute brings up a question I think is a theme among everyone who owns older TVs. What about the A95L? Where's its quality as compared to the G5 and S95F? And what about the S95D and
They're
other
gorgeous.
generations?
Yeah,
So
they're still gorgeous.
what is your content? If you're watching Netflix, streaming Disney, they all look the same. If it's filmmaker mode, right? You put the A95L in professional mode, you put the G5 and the S95F in filmmaker mode, accurate to Netflix, let's say the most popular platform, they will look identical, other than their own personalities, right?
Which what the personalities are, if you get out of the accurate presets, the
Then-
standard will be handled. Then you're on your own, which
Right.
is important. If you like the way Sony, no matter how saturated the preset, it'll always have a tinge of accuracy.
Yes.
Samsung can go buck wild.
Yes.
Same with LG. That's the signature we're talking
Right.
about. But for the most part, they'll look even standard versus standard, they look very similar out of the box.
So let's talk about that. If you put Netflix on Vivid on the G5, Dynamic on the S95F, and Standard or Sports on the A95L, the G5 will destroy all of them in brightness, but would completely look inaccurate. The S95F would be in second place with bright green in terms of brightness. The A95L will look nearly accurate, just slightly brighter. Which would you choose? Filmmaker, they're identical to the source as far as creator's intent. And so get the A95L if that's all that's important to you. Is, you know what? I just want creator's intent.
Yeah.
You nailed it. The G5 S95F could only do that better if it's Jennifer's content. We're going 2,000 nits,
and
3,000.
keep in mind, guys, the A95L, Sony is that set it and forget it. You put that TV in professional and call it a day, and you're good to go. And the TV is still one of the best TVs in the world. I mean, obviously, it won the shootout freaking. Did we win the shootout 3 years or 2 years?
2 years in a row. Well, it won the shootout 3 years in a row because the A95K won. The A95K and then
Sony won it 3 years in a row. The A95 only won 2. Damn, freaking Muhammad Ali in this.
Yeah, I know,
What's
right?
up, Leo?
Hey, Leo, we just woke up and we decided the G5 sucks. You should return it.
Yeah, Leo, you missed. Yeah, you got off.
You missed the first half.
I'm so happy you're loving the G5, Leo. That's important. Bless you, Wendy.
Good morning. I had the best time gaming last night. 165 hertz. Oh, it worked. We don't need to test it. We heard it from Leo.
Leo's good. Send me your footage.
And COD. Most kills every match.
It does make a difference,
I
my
can
friend.
see Leo going on. I'm winning. Wow, hot new TV.
Well, I will tell you what's funny. When people come over and they see me gaming at 83, they go, "It's not fair. The guys are huge. You can see everybody." The problem is you do have to.
Congratulations. Yeah, Leo, if you guys don't know, he's been buying LCD TVs, large TVs, Samsung, right, flagship, and now he's gone to OLED and he cannot go back.
And and Robert will tell you this too, Leo, that nothing's better than when you get a piece of technology you're actually happy with. Then it really is the best feeling.
Yes.
And it's almost like you never capture it again. You never can capture it again. Because right now we're pretty jaded by it.
Hey, Yadiel, thank you for that super chat, Mr. Perez. You always praise LCDs looking OLED, but DSC, vignetting, and smearing
I never praise them looking OLED.
Need at least one store return. In my opinion, LCDs are a headache. So, Brian never praises it.
I never praise it.
So let me defend why I praise LCD. So LCDs.
I was the LCD guy for years.
Yes. So let's talk about flagship LCDs, right? Let's talk it. Last year's QM8, Bravia 9, this year's QM8K, and all the flagships coming out this year. On angle, most content indistinguishable. They're that good. But you're absolutely right, Yadiel. DSE. I don't know about vignetting. I think that's been fixed. But yeah, if you go to the cheaper TVs, smearing in video games, maybe, right? Get some ghosting. You'll likely need at least one store return. So we're talking about quality control. Now, if you go on the Samsung owner user groups, you're going to see a bunch of people complaining about returns on the S90D, right? That's an OLED, right? In my opinion, LCDs are a headache. So we are enthusiasts. Among the best, I say get an OLED. But if you're in the 98-inch crowd and you don't have $20,000 in your pocket,
85-inch crowd,
85-inch crowd,
you're done.
If you're 85-inch and above and you don't have $5,000 or more for the best OLEDs, or you don't have $4,000 or more for last year's OLED, but you got $2,000 sitting in your pocket, I would take a $2,000 100-inch TV for immersion and deal with exactly what you said. A little DSC, a little vignetting, and smearing in games. But 100 inches from 7 to 8 feet away, wow, right?
Yeah.
And that's always a balance. I'm getting all the flaws you mentioned. And thank God if you buy at Best Buy, they will come and take your TV for you and replace it because that's part of their premium club membership, which I am of. But you're right, Perez. The LCD is I don't want to say it, but it's the person with a budget. If you don't have the money to get an OLED, but you want the size and you want some of that impact, but you want the size, and the key is you want the size.
Yeah. Well, and
you have to go LCD.
Well, and the problem is too, I think, is like even, blooming, or you can't tell. Sometimes the local dimming will be a little brighter on one side. You'll have slightly. So I know what you're saying about the local dimming, but OLEDs do have their own issues. They do have their own banding issues. A lot of you guys aren't sensitive to it. I am very sensitive to the 15-12% gray banding. I see it in everything.
Yep.
So they do have their own issues. Brightness is not the issue anymore as long as you're with these elite TVs. That used to be a problem.
And how much is the 65-inch G5 right now, right? Like $3,000.
Yep.
So, people don't have $3,000 to burn on 65, but they have $2,000 to get a 100-inch.
Yeah, and when you do go into some of the big box stores and you do see like a B4 for very cheap, Right next to it will be a giant TCL. The problem is the image quality is night and day. It's just the size turns people on. But I understand what you're saying, Yadiel. But the thing is, you're going to be like me. You're going to be stuck at 83 for the rest of your life. They're never going to get larger than that.
For an affordable price, because if they add primary RGB
But
tandem
even-
to a 97, how much is it going to be?
Yeah, but even if you did go 97, you're going to, that's where those mini LEDs might be a larger OLED, because they're going to be 115 inch is massive. I mean,
And to Yadiel's point, look at the future. The future is
they are the future.
RGB LED, RGB mini LED, or Samsung RGB micro LED. That's all LCD TVs.
That's all the future.
That's their flagship, and they're going to be more expensive than OLED.
And they're cheaper to make, and I think that there's a high failure. I remember when OLEDs were first being made, there was a high failure rate on them. That's why they were so expensive. I still think they're cheaper to make. You know, and people, they can, I don't know, they just. Look, we did not predict mini LEDs to be the future. We thought they were dead.
I predicted size to be the future,
and we thought cheap would be the future. But now they're all going that way.
Oh, they're not cheap. No. Fume 9K, not cheap.
No.
So Max Overdrive, thanks for the follow-up, buddy. What do you think is best for 4K content? I use Apple TV Plus, Prime Video, Disney and Paramount, sometimes Netflix, of course. So I'm assuming, Max, this is a very difficult and nuanced question, because if you're using an internal app, you're actually reviewing the TV's UI and internal app implementation. Very inconsistent. Definitely some TVs are better than others. And this is where the Google TVs may have an advantage, because Google TV is more, I guess the updates come more regularly. So let's say Sony and Google TV may have a different set of performance for their Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV on their internal app versus an external app on Apple TV. Because when you said Apple TV Plus, I'm assuming it's an app and not the actual device. If you use an external device like Apple TV and you're watching Prime Video, Disney, and Paramount on that, that is your best quality among streamers. And now you're just grading the streamer and the HDMI conversion, which is what we do normally when we review TVs. If that's the case, best for 4K content is, what is your budget, right? I find the G5 absolutely phenomenal. It is going to get you the best HDR. The problem is you're not hitting that with any of that streaming. You're not getting that max content. Now, if you game as well, the G5, boom, you got the HDR impact, all of that. But the HDR impact on last year's G4 is going to look just the same.
It was excellent.
Now, if you're doing internal apps, that's a different issue, because internal app on the G5 is struggling with Dolby Vision. And you can't turn it off. You can't go to HDR10 as an alternative, right? So right now, it's hard for me to recommend the G5 if you're only using internal apps, because on the Dolby Vision, people are seeing issues near black, this and that. So if you recognize that you're still okay with it, go for it, because above that brightness, it's perfect. The S95F doesn't have any of those issues that I've heard of if you're using internal apps, but then you have to deal with a matte screen. All these TVs are so good, though. I think you're splitting hairs. So I think G4, S95D, S95F, they're all the A95L, Bravia 8 from last year. They will all make those streaming content good, because the benchmark and the bar for streaming is so low.
Yeah, and between these four, the best, well, you only see two here, but if you look at these four being the S95D and the G4, it comes into FOMO Go last year and go up one size.
Yes, I would take that
55 to 65 to 77. That's where I think you do end up winning. You know, I'd rather go with a 77-inch S95D than a smaller S95F.
Yeah.
But you only have limited time to make that decision. You know, these TVs are not going to be like this forever.
Absolutely. And hey, and thanks for showing up this morning and spending time with us with this wrap up. We discovered a lot about these TVs, and we're here to answer more of your questions, because now that we know, we have a good idea in the context of not just the G5 versus the S95F, the flagship 2025, but context with last year's G4, which we compared last.
It's been such a valuable lesson for us to see.
The subtle differences and the major differences when they were. What were they? And is it important to you? Because I just love when people say, well, I just watch old TV shows. I said, get the LG B3 at 83 inches. $2,000. Yeah, so.
But typically when you're in these chats with us, you're not that group. Typically you're somebody who's an enthusiast and you want to see these things. And you're going to push them.
And so Max is saying, for clarity, I use an Apple 4K TV box. So perfect. You got the best streaming. Or the Fire Stick going into an 83-inch. Oh,
good choice. Well, you'll be very happy.
G4 or G3. I just love the color saturation on the G. So I watch a lot of sports. I did not like losing a little contrast and having washed out colors to get me the brightness on the G4 in a bright room. I would go with the G5. It preserved skin tones and it preserved color and it preserved contrast while going even brighter than the G4. And that's, watching sports is not even 4K. Most of the time on YouTube TV, ESPN, college sports, it's like 1080p, bad bit rate. I'd go with the G5 and take advantage of their latest processor of that stuff, the bad bit rate, because every year that's one thing that all TV makers do. They slightly improve their upscaling,
to keep
their
retooling
scaling of bit rate processing. So I'd go with the G5.
And if you want the best processor from Samsung, you have to go with the 8K. It
Yeah.
stands alone. So I wish they would trickle those down. But to your point, they always keep things where you have to buy the ones you want
Absolutely.
for the best, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting a lot of people coming in, and I'm just...
How many we have in?
Okay, here we go. Plasma TV. I think you guys just need to state it more clearly. Netflix and Amazon Prime max out at 1,000 nits. I don't even think they get to 1,000 nits. I mean, that's their max. Trust me when I say you're lucky to get 800 nits out of these guys. So there's absolutely no point in buying a super bright OLED if you exclusively stream content. Do I say that often?
Yeah, but
I say that
why do
every
we? But
single
here's the
time.
thing: is why do you think we have to say that? I mean,
Oh,
so,
because we're reviewers.
But yeah, but the thing is,
I tell people to get the B3.
But the
B3.
thing is, by your comment, you can have a C7 and be happy.
Yes, that's what I tell you.
Or just use whatever TV you have in your house.
But here's the
Why
problem.
do I need to state that?
Here's the
We do, and that's we state it every day.
every day. But here's the problem, Plasma. The minute people say,
I mean, your name is Plasma TV Comparison, so I'm guessing that you still have a Plasma.
But here's the
Which
thing.
they're amazing, by the way, at 100 nits.
The thing is, when people stream, then they throw in sports. The minute you throw in sports, you have a problem. Because sports in SDR is what? 100 nits. Suddenly, you're going from bright, possibly brighter, right? 500 nits, 600 nits that these OLEDs are capable of. And then they drop to 100 nits. You're like, wait. And then you go into vivid mode or dynamic mode, and you're like, wait, it's still not bright enough.
But beyond.
And that's the key, Plasma.
But the thing is, Plasma, beyond Netflix, I mean, Apple TV, I buy movies every day.
Yeah.
That's where you are going to see the difference. People still buy movies. It's not just Netflix. I get what you're saying, but us stating it, we state it all the time.
Oh, we do. We do. I mean, he's
But
new.
we always say
He's new.
we watch Columbo. If you watch Columbo, any
Look,
TV will
I had
do.
Columbo on my thumbnail, so you guys can see
Columbo too.
why certain, like the QM6K, I said, look, if all you watch Columbo, why are you even getting an OLED? Because Columbo is SDR. You don't need infinite contrast because it's SDR. It's not even taking advantage of the dynamic range capable of infinite contrast, right? So yeah, I agree, Plasma. We're on it. Buddy Love, thank you for the 2-day comparisons. Yeah,
Wow,
today's
that's
day
great.
2.
Thank
you for your generosity,
Very generous, my friend.
Very
Thank you.
generous. Now I can buy us coffee in Scarsdale because you don't know how
Scarsdale's a
expensive.
little pricey here.
A little pricey, right?
Thank
You
you.
get a shoe shine and you're broke.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Very
2-day
generous of
comparison. I know everyone in chat have made up their minds until the Bravia 8 II or the Bravia 8 II comes out to give them FOMO. Great show. Okay, now this is a great segue. I'm going to talk about the Bravia 8 II one more time because I need Sony to hear this. Sony is expecting us to call it the Bravia 8 Mark II. And I told Sony directly, I go, wait,
Until you rate it
in
out.
none of your materials do you call it the Bravia 8 Mark II. You write
The
literally,
leak said Mark II.
literally it's Bravia 8 II, right? Capital I, Roman numerals. If you're there to hear me on a podcast or listening in the car and I say Bravia 8 Mark II, they're going to look for it online. They're going to Google Bravia 8. They're going to type in the number 2
Or MARK too.
or Mark II or M.2, but the number 2. No one's going to write II. And then they're going to find last year's Bravia 8. And then the number 2 is somewhere else.
You imagine
It's not even relevant.
Imagine buying the Bravia 2? You're like, hey, I love it.
I know. The Bravia
they
2.
have a Bravia 2.
They leave out the Bravia 8 and you get the Bravia 2, which is the worst
Which
of
is
the
their
two.
lowest then.
And so I said to
I don't
her,
know, man. It doesn't look like the blacks aren't great on this one.
what's one of these reviewers? The Bravia 2 looks terrible. And so by calling it Bravia 8 Mark II, you have the number 2, not Roman numeral 2, the number 2. So I told Sony, I'm going to call it Bravia
Dos.
8 II. Even DOS doesn't help.
Yeah, 11.
Like, it's still the number
They should
2.
have just called it a Bravia
The
11. called
number
it a day.
2.
I stopped it
So-
all right now. Get rid of the Bravia. Call it 11.
I'm calling it, yeah, or the Bravia 811.
Yeah.
But then it's 1-1. And so now people, it has to be
Somebody
I.
in marketing.
Because Roman numeral is not a number, but it's 2 letters. I'm sorry.
And
It's, the
Panasonic's
syntax kills me.
and Panasonic's processor is called Mark II.
Well, only because, and I'm talking about this because Buddy Love paid me enough to talk about this. I'm able to get my soapbox for your generosity.
Yeah.
And I texted Sony reps. I said, guys, I had a dream last night so I have to show you through my dream real quick. So I gave my Sony rep a lecture on this, and he's all like, what can I tell you? It's Mark II. And I had a dream that Sony executives beat me up
Yeah.
and said, it is Mark II. Let it go.
And that executive was named Mark.
No, that executive was Mark.
I'm Mark. They finally named like a storm. They named it after him.
Then they threw me into interdimensional bubble, and I ended up in like ancient Arabia. I was like, I will never do this again. So
And the thing is, they said like and that puts the A95L in a weird place because it's like what universe is that part of? It's like that's part of last year. A90 2 years ago.
Thank you, buddy, for letting me get on my soapbox with
Appreciate it.
that.
Thank you
I
for
don't think you
kindness and
expected that, but yeah. Hey, Erkan Akaya, thank you for the super chat. G1 77-inch. Wanted to upgrade to a 98-inch TV. Everything is connected with the receiver, so forth. But I definitely want 98-inch. PC is 4090. That's what you have. 4090. Yes, I approve. Because going from a G1 to a G4, 98,
He wants to go up to
G5.
98,
Oh, wait,
though.
98, 97.
Yeah, 98.
Okay, so you have a problem.
You have to go with an LED.
So you have to go with an LED because there is a 97-inch TV, but they're 20,000 plus. If you don't want to spend 20,000 plus, then you have to go 100-inch or 98-inch with either Samsung. Sony has one this year,
Samsung
but the
is-
G1 is so good. You're going from infinite contrast. You have to almost go flagship. You have to go flagship mini LED to get close to that contrast you have on the G1, which
that's
puts you in the
so-
$10,000 to $15,000.
Which is QN90F
Mark?
for Samsung.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Did you hear the pricing for the 116 UX? So Hisense released the 116 RGB mini LED in China. Are you ready for the price? $10,000 in China. Now,
like what is that in the US?
that's 10,000 US dollars converted. Now, that's in China. There is no guarantee that, first of all, it's coming from China. So who knows if the tariffs will
Margins on
affect us.
that'll be your old money.
No, so basically no margins for them, right? They're doing this
Or for
as
the retailer. I mean, what's the retailer?
that's the retailer selling it for $10,000, right?
I hate to tell you, guys aren't carrying the 116 here.
So now we don't know what the U.S. pricing is going to be, but they're trying to show the world, no, not only are we going to beat you up with amazing technology, we're going to beat you up with pricing, but that's in China.
It's
Once
not going to cost that. here.
once it crosses the ocean, what does it cost here? We don't know.
That's
But
true.
Brian, if it was 20,000, what would it cost here? That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, true.
At 10,000, maybe it comes here and it ends up being 15.
Yeah.
That at a 116, that directly competes with the QM7K at 115-inch.
Well, 15-inch QM7K is 15.
It's 15. The
15,
QM7K. And the
This is
QM8
RGB,
last
this is an
year
RGB
is 15
this is an
now.
RGB mini LED.
But this is RGB mini LED. So, Erkin, definitely wait until midsummer
hang out.
to see how much these TVs are going to cost,
Yeah.
because this is going to be a great upgrade. I definitely approve. And with TCL also focusing on gaming as well, 4090, they're saying they could do 165.
And does Hisense have 4 HDMI 2.1 this year?
Hisense has 4
144.
plus 4 plus one of them is a USB-C display port
Yeah, that's awesome.
for PC gamers. So you might want to look at the Hisense U8 that goes up to 100 inches. U8Q, right?
Does it have the display port too?
That's where it is. It's on the U8. It's only on the U8.
Are you kidding me? Really? Only on that one?
I mean, come on, it's flagship, man.
That's not the flagship. The 9 is the flagship.
Well, the NAC does go up to 100, though.
That's the... He's company.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's on my middle. Not the best, but not the worst.
But we'll get more final details later. Hey, this, that, and stuff. Thank you for that super chat. Review idea.
That's
83-inch
damn,
G5
that's the...
from Mexico.
Oh, this is super...
MX is
Let's
super
say, doesn't
chat.
say Super Chat Max, I thought.
Well, maybe it's Mex.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is that Mexico? But thank you for your generosity, my friend.
Yeah, really generous.
Review idea. 83-inch G5 versus 83-inch S95F. Guess what? Robert has that coming in for Brian to come
We'll
in
compare them.
and film. We'll be the first to compare them side by side. Well, the first in the U.S. at least. I know in Europe they got them all.
So
they
I mean,
beat it to
that's
death,
going to be
here,
like
first time side by side.
That'll be like for like this, that, and stuff. It's just the real question, and we'll show you in a few weeks, is going to be that matte finish. Is that going to turn you off? If that's no bueno for you, then the G5 right away. Don't even have to wait. But I think it's going to be very interesting. But they're the same technology.
Yeah.
But even if I think Vincent and measured said the S95 maybe is slightly brighter at 83, but the matte finish is going to neutralize that anyway. It may measure brighter, but it's.
But then the contrast takes away that 3D pop.
You won't see it anyway, so it's not going to matter.
Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe it will. Maybe it goes the other way, right?
Wait a few weeks. We'll film it here.
And we have, thank you for the super chat, Sammy. Hi, looking to upgrade to an 85-inch from a 55-inch LG UM7300 for a relative. See, that's what I always say. It's really for a relative. TV is
what
used
is a UM7300?
yeah, probably Costco special.
That's old school.
TV is used for streaming with an Apple TV. All right, good source. Budget is $1,500, 85-inch. Bright room. What's a good option? QM7, U8N, or X90CL. QM7 will be, so the U8N technically is the brightest. However, the QM7 is the best performing. So with $1,500, get the QM7 85-inch. That was my editor's choice TV last year for a reason. It is so close to QM8 in everything except the blooming control in the QM8 is a little bit better, and it's a little bit brighter, but it's not so much so that I would tell you to go up to the QM8. The QM7 performed so well, and it's not just because of its price. It performed so well that I would choose it over the QM8 because you don't see that QM8 advantage unless you have special content from Jennifer Gala that's over 2,000 nits or 4,000 nits, right? For everything you need to watch on that Apple TV, the QM7 will nail it. Get the QM7. I thought the U8N was good, but its blooming control, specular highlights lost to the QM7. It does have slightly better skin tones. So if you want skin tones out of the box, U8N. If you want specular highlights and blooming control,
these last year's
black levels, QM7, both are good, but U8N does have the slightly better natural skin tones if you don't plan to calibrate, right? If you calibrate them, then they'll end up a little bit closer. So U8N, skin tones, very natural. QM7, HDR impact, deeper blacks. The Sony X90L, great for full screen watching, meaning, so, man, I'd rather you wait for the Bravia 5 for the X90L because that's the X90L upgraded with mini LED. I love the X90, full screen. In black bars, it will be slightly worse than the QM7 and the U8N. Its contrast is slightly worse, but it has the best skin tone of the two. So the X90, great for that. And as a matter of fact, that's the one I recommended from my friend. He's looking for 98 inches. I had him order the X90L because that delivered, well, got it from Robert. That delivered the best skin tone. He loves it, by the way. And he's a Sony guy. And he goes, oh, it's a Sony?
It's XR processor on it.
Excellent processor. Skin tones are natural. It doesn't have the impact, but he doesn't care. He's mostly college football.
It's a projector for him.
Netflix, right. Live streaming, giant floor-to-ceiling windows. He just wants to make sure the TV is bright enough. He's mostly an SDR guy anyway. Doesn't even know what HDR is. X90L is perfect for him. So, yeah, those are your choices. Let me know which one you choose and come back and tell us how you enjoy it. And thank you for that super chat, DP. How come no one made an 83-inch Kodi OLED? Simply too expensive? Yes, the market's too small. Volumes are too small. It doesn't justify all the tooling to get it done and then have it stuck in inventory because Samsung likes to churn new models every year. If they don't sell it and it sits in inventory, they have to sell it cheap. They lose money. They write it off. The market for 83-inch simply is not large enough.
And we simply feel that Samsung itself wants to move away from OLEDs. Their big money makers are LEDs and mini LEDs. So for them, it actually is kind of a thorn in their side. Even if they're successful, they don't make the same money as they do on mini LEDs.
And at this price, you're competing with 100-inch TVs. So people who have $5,000 for this, they're going, wait, $5,000? Give me the 115-inch.
So we think probably if QD OLED came out a couple of years earlier, you would have seen that because if you remember the A90J was 83. 83 TV's been out for a while. I think they missed that window. Now they're thinking, why? If I'm a Samsung executive, I'm like, why are we moving up to this if everyone's jumping up to that?
Yeah.
for the same price. For what they'd have to charge, you know, it doesn't make sense to them.
Hey guys,
And they have it by just using another panel. They're paying.
True. Do you have any idea how many of the latest top-tier televisions have Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E capability?
The G5,
Not off the top of my head, but
the G5 has Wi-Fi 6, Robert.
Yes.
But the S95F, I believe, has Wi-Fi 5.
I
5.
think it's 5 point something.
Okay,
Yeah.
so only among these TVs, only the G5
Just the G5.
has Wi-Fi 6. Now we don't know about the what Sony's going to do and those guys, but the G5 Wi-Fi 6. All right, good question. I was going to say I have no idea.
I just saw it on the S90 that it was 6. I don't imagine it would be higher on the S95. It might be, but I don't think so.
So the S96 or 590?
S90F is 5.
Okay, so
I imagine the
S95 is 5.
S95 is the same, I would imagine.
Okay, here's rumors that we don't want to spread, but we have to mention. I heard that in the UK,
It's impossible.
83 inches QD-OLED,
It's
but
not.
only for that market. Now,
not.
I don't know.
It's not.
So
It's not. I'll tell
why
you.
you guys
it's
don't
not.
confirm and let us know
It's
if it
not.
is.
It's not. Sam, it's not.
I have hope.
They would
I
never.
have
They
hope.
would never make
No,
it.
no,
Why
no,
on
no,
earth
if,
would
no.
they?
If they make it for the UK because the market is so small, Brian would be brokenhearted.
What do you think? What do you think? My friend Chirag from Samsung Display is like, "Hey Frank, you're over in the UK. Hey Oliver, I got you." It's absurd. It's not. And you understand that the UK market for larger TVs is smaller.
Yeah.
They would sell that here. Don't listen. You can't listen to everything you read.
And let's see. Matt and Bev.
Somebody
we
books-
live in the UK. Matt, can you get
You
out
guys
there
live in
and
the
find
UK,
out?
Matt and Bev. What's up?
Find out. Let us know.
Matt, Bev, and Ruby. What's happening?
Hunt down that rumor.
Good to see you guys here. They don't even know you're in the UK.
No way. Don't spread rumors, right? We're going to start getting rumors. Hey,
Oh my
you
God,
guys
dude.
know?
I'm telling you, it's not.
Sony doesn't have QD-OLED after all. It's primary.
It's a
TV.
primary. I'll tell you right now, if they had an 83-inch, would Sony? No, Sony didn't even do 77. Out of your minds. The UK, MI6 got the 83-inch QD OLED. James Bond driving around Austin Martin.
Wait. These guys always answer the paid comments. This is ridiculous. Wait, let's talk about the opposite.
We did 7 hours yesterday.
We never answer paid comments.
Yeah.
So that would be even more
Yeah,
ridiculous.
we
right?
did 8. Go ahead. We just put you up there. We did 8 hours yesterday. We have to.
We always answer paid comments. You know, that has to be the best.
You
Best
mean,
comment.
you mean super chat? Yeah, I got
Right.
you.
No, but no, it's paid comments, right? Super chat sounds so polite. These guys are always whoring themselves out. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean we got a lot of them. They usually don't get this many. So.
Here we go. Speaking of, thank you, Christian,
Yeah,
for paying for this comment.
To sponsor Christian Rosnos.
Unlimited space. Should I go G583 or bigger? Unlimited space. So if it's unlimited, it's always how far do you sit? Now, if you know, giant room like here at Value Electronics, but just sit 5 feet away, right? You don't have to go big. But I'll tell you, find a place for a 115-inch TV. Only because you have unlimited space. It becomes, to me, a visual installation. It's not about image quality. It's not, I mean, the image quality is good enough, right? We're not talking enthusiast image quality like those of us here. We're talking, you walk into a huge unlimited space with a 115-inch TV that will look small in that space. That's just mind-boggling, and it's an amazing installation. So for me, I would go with the largest TV available on sale, and that would be currently the QM8 in the US, or the QM8 9 1G, or wait for the 116-inch Hisense RGB mini LED. Throw it up there and just enjoy the heck out of a 115, 116-inch TV.
They're incredible.
Because you have unlimited space.
They're massive,
And I'm assuming unlimited budget. Because if you go with 83 and you throw it in there, again, if you sit 7 feet away from an 83-inch, it's
Perfect,
fine.
yeah.
But in an unlimited space, you know, or
They
maybe
get-
get a couple of 83 inches and put them side by side, you could have fun.
So I tell you, there's times where we have 83s. Like we have an 83 on a G5 on the wall, probably 17 feet from us, and it does not look like it's anything bigger than a 75.
Yeah.
So I mean, you really. But then there's an 83 to your. Well, there's a 77 to your right shoulder,
Looks tiny.
and it doesn't look big enough. So it's you have to be within a certain distance.
Oh my gosh, I'm probably maybe 4 feet away, and it's perfect for 4 feet, 4 feet away.
And that could be broken.
And here's a great question. When will LG move away from WOLED, do you guys think? If this primary RGB WOLED takes off, not for a couple of years, because they're going to milk this baby for all they can get out of it. And remember, they can still add MLA to it if they want.
Yeah.
So, you know, take everything that is awesome this year. What if they added MLA? what would it do then, right? So there are so many things they can do with WOLED that will stay competitive. As you saw, it's good enough. It was keeping up with QD-OLED, sometimes surpassing it in some situations, but definitely close enough that even enthusiasts would be like, what? So I would say at least 3 more years, but they have to have something waiting in the wings. What is it that's waiting in the wings? I read a Korean article yesterday that mentioned they're working on RGB mini LED. Did you know that? LG Display is working on RGB mini LED as well.
I did not hear that.
Or LG Electronics. Well, the LG team, they want RGB mini LED. They think OLED is
we're fine.
OLED has hit its market saturation. If they want to continue to grow into the premium, they have to go RGB mini LED. So maybe that's their move away from WOLED, is RGB mini LED, but not QD OLED. They're going to skip that because the only seller of QD OLED is Samsung, and they're not going to go there.
5 and 6 for the.
Any thoughts as to why Sony is foregoing 4
I think it's
full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 points on its next QD OLED? I thought MediaTek was releasing a new Pentonic chip this year that solves the problem. So Sony doesn't have that Pentonic chip. Basically, they're developing and manufacturing their TV a year ahead of time, right? It's not like, oh, hey, it's here, let's put it in. So if they're developing it last year and it wasn't available in volume last year and it hasn't been vetted, it hasn't been validated, it hasn't been tested, they're not going to use it. So maybe next year, I mean, even Hisense and TCL, they're limiting their 4x8 2.1 to maybe 1 model. So they're not using it, and they are a lot more agile than Sony. So even though the Pentonic chip may be available, it's got to be validated for consumer use, right? Just because MediaTek says, hey, it works, Sony still got to make it work for their TV. So at earliest, maybe next year. So use TCL and Hisense as the canary in the coal mine in terms of this technology. They are the most agile when adopting new stuff. If they're not on it, Sony's not going to be on it because Sony would rather watch them. Oh, look at all the problems they're having with this thing.
Yeah, they'll always hang back. Well, and Robert just confirmed that the S95F and S90 are Wi-Fi 5, and the G5 is 6.
Wait. Wait, I want to put this one up. In response to the other guy, I just want you guys to only read my comment. Here's $2.
Yeah, you should. It's like taking quarters out of a machine, just run them.
You know, it's like going to Vegas.
Yeah, you take the coin thing, you break it up. I'm here all day. We're putting quarters in the arcade. Remember, I got next.
Take care of me. Here's $100. Thank you, D, for the super chat. Hey, fellas, thank you for great content as always. Thoughts on best 77-inch G5 versus A95L for Kaleidoscape in a dark room. That, in a dark room, you don't need the G5's extra power. The A95L color saturation, all that is still there. Kaleidoscape, we know, normal movies, classic movies, you don't need the extra brightness. But the G5, dark room, all the stuff is wasted on the G5. I'd go with the A95L, definitely. G5 is close, but I think I'd go with a cheaper TV.
Why don't you get in the picture, Robert? Why don't you have one? You take a picture, get in the picture.
Yeah, that's why we're live streaming.
He loves your camera, man. He's got camera prejudice.
FX30.
Yeah.
I was going to get the FX3, but what do I need an FX3 for? The FX30 looks amazing already.
Hey, hello.
So,
Good picture.
Hello.
For
You
prosperity.
send me that one if it looks good.
So, I would say get the less expensive TV because both will excel in a dark room. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So
77 inch. QD OLED G5. I know A95L slightly better color saturation, but you're not going to go into that luminance where it makes its case. Oh, actually, you know what?
For Kaleidoscape?
For now, A95L because...
But Kaleidoscape is going to be pushing it to the max, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but there's no movies that push it to the alpha.
Yeah. I would still go with G5, man. A95L is too old for me.
But remember, if he's going to go Kaleidoscape, he's looking for creator's intent.
G5 is pretty accurate, though, man. Get the
Wow.
3D
What about the
LUTs.
lifted? What about the lifted?
For
but then
now,
calibration.
bro.
Okay.
Yeah, for
If you go with the
now.
G5,
You got a kaleidoscope, bro. I mean, I don't care
no.
what the.
If you go with the G5, you have to reach out
I
to
can't-
Robert and get
yeah.
it calibrated by Dwayne.
For now, yeah. I mean, they're gonna fix it, but I would never go with
The king of TVs for 2 years straight.
Yeah, yeah.
G5 is-
1975. Come
is
on.
this?
In technology, that's 30 years ago. G5, get the hell out of here. It's A95.
Okay.
If you're on a budget, even A95 is still expensive. I missed that whole conversation.
If you have
Crazy.
it calibrated with Robert or wherever,
I don't care if the
then get the
A95 is
G5.
Yeah, you're out of your
Look at
mind.
you, look at
G5,
you.
get the hell out
Can
of
you
here.
tell Sony didn't pay him?
Yeah,
Let's just say
it
Sony
took me
did
to
not pay him.
Japan. They got great steaks, but you're out of your mind. Even the Mark 8, what the hell are we calling it? Marky Mark and a
No,
Funky Bunch?
Bravia 8 II.
Yeah, Jesus.
I'm going to get
I am
thrown into a
legend.
bus. Would you guys buy an 83-inch S95F? It was QD OLED, Brian?
This is a great question. No.
No. Because of the matte?
Because of the matte screen. If it was glossy, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And Bravia 8 II ships with a full screen peel, according to Sony Connect. Does Robert know if the 2025 77-inch A95Ls are now shipping with the full screen peels?
No, they would not do that. They're not going to go back and start putting
Peels on it?
Yeah, hold on, Frank. No.
Well,
They should have
what?
always done
Wait,
that. to be
actually,
honest.
maybe out of the factory they might. The problem is you don't know
Highly
which is
doubt
which.
that. They're not making new ones.
So, Mr. Lee,
they're carrying
I hate
over
to
with-
tell you this. You got to go back to Sony Connect and ask them. Because
they're not.
it's coming from Sony. If we say it and we're wrong, we go, hey, what can you do?
It
But
just
you
it
can't hold us
doesn't make
responsible.
any sense. I mean, if they didn't have, there's no way they're going to change the tooling and add some plastic covers to them now. I mean, that would, if it was a new TV maybe, but they're just selling the A95L. Though it carries over, they're just going to sell a lot of them. They're not going to keep making them because
Yeah.
Samsung Display doesn't have doesn't have Generation 2 in stock. They just make the new ones. That's why we think the S90F is a 4th gen.
And this is a great question. I think we kind of
Yes.
hinted at this. Is the G5 close enough color-wise to get the G5 over the S95F? Yes.
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 Yeah, it is.
We would have
It
to
doesn't.
stop
It doesn't.
on scenes.
It doesn't surpass it.
No, it does
but
not.
it does. It does
Close.
get enough close enough to it, where you're not going to. And then if they're not next to each other, you wouldn't notice. And you still had to have certain shots
Yes.
that push the brightness at the same peak brightness. They'll look identical, which is the key.
And Mark wants to thank us. FOMO, thanks so much for your advice. I share it with people I know, and they are quite pleased on your recommendation for TVs. So I can see Mark like, hey, man, I know my TVs. I got a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy. What about me, Bomo?
Anytime, my friend, anytime. I got a guy. And here we have Home Theater Man. I think he likes home theaters.
Home theater man, what's up? How are you? He's a good
Brian,
dude.
stop the FOMO. I bought a Panasonic UB9000. Well, we have it right here. Player on the Black Friday deal, and my UB9000 has much better detail than my UB820. Interesting. I don't know
that that's the case. I mean, you might.
I mean,
it might be a little placebo. but
Interesting.
Could be.
I've never tested them side by side.
Yeah, 'cause the only big
it should be the same.
Audio-wise is where the UB9000, the audio and build quality, but in terms of
Well, now they both have their own optimization settings.
Which I never
Maybe the
use those.
settings aren't the same
Yeah, I
because
don't
I've been
use
using the UB820
yeah.
before my Kaleidoscape. I've been using that for my reviews. I did a lot of research, but you know what?
Might be. Could be.
What's important is you notice the details.
Yeah, could be.
I really don't know. I haven't done it side by side.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
As long as you enjoy it, my friend. Terry, I got a guy.
I got a guy. What you think?
It's a great monitor.
55-inch G5 as a monitor. Wow.
It's a big
I can
monitor.
only have a 48-inch C1. Man, this thing's going to blind you, my friend. They're not holding back on the G5.
Yeah, the 48 would be brighter than your C1, but it's not going to be a 4-stack. What's up, Terry? I got a guy.
I got a guy.
Terry, hope you're feeling better. I know you were under the weather, bro.
You know what? I didn't even know they sold this anymore. Sony got a new DVD player, too.
Like a DVD player, man, Bev, or Blu-ray players? I do have a 4K Blu-ray player.
Okay, it's not new. It's a refresh of an old one. But yeah, it is new for this
Robert
year.
and Wendy gave me one. It's great.
Yeah. And
Matt and Bev, my favorite couple.
here we go. 83-inch G4 versus 77-inch. You got to go 83-inch.
Yeah, the G4.
They are close enough, right?
The G4 is going to. The G4 at 77 does a great job against the 95.
It's a good team. It's a good team.
A77, it's not 83 to destroy it.
And do you still buy physical media?
I do. You know what? I would love to tell you that I do. I do not. Simply because we were talking about this the other day. I have a couple Blu-ray players, 4K Blu-ray players. I was using it on the Valerian. What a pain in the butt, man. The little smudge in the disc. I'm like, oh my god, it's skipping. I forgot how much fun that was, so I just kind of stream now. I mean, we're creators, so I don't have time to be messing around with discs. We bring discs different places. I don't have time for that crap. I mean, on this between my Fire Stick and all the stuff he has, we get about 500 movies. Imagine us trying to do that, bringing them in.
I know, it's totally. Now, this is a comment I love. So I just got my 2 G5s. Thank you, Shinwin, for sharing.
Wow.
And still watching you guys. My wife is looking over, giving me the look. You better not be thinking.
Tell her we said hi. Take this picture. Hi.
Well, you know what? You're going to be happy for the next 12 months, and then we're going to do another video. How about you guys with 2 G6s?
We went not once, not twice, but thrice. You need that 3, baby.
You know what?
Get that third one.
It's cheaper for his wife to fly him here and join us.
You got to have a middle child.
G6s,
So
right?
get that third one, baby. Get that 85-inch. 83-inch.
And you got people who want a 55-inch monitor.
Yeah, you got
wants to be blinded,
for
right?
it. Your vision's not important. Get tan too.
No need. And we got some great comments here. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the G5 this year. And this, again, the S95F is a great TV.
It's awesome.
But the G5 with the impact, and hey, animals like bright things. We're animals. We love bright things. I want to be blinded. That is the theme. Okay. And this is a good comment. I think, Brian, you've tried your best. Did you all try to turn up the brightness and contrast in the settings on the A95L? Because it was extremely dull in gaming, and now it's a beast with color brightness and detail. So the A95L gaming, right? You got people doing live color, which is great. You got people doing their
There's still a ceiling.
the XR real reality creation. When you're gaming, it's no longer about quote unquote accuracy. It's about having fun.
Yeah. So because the A95L was the
I'll be right back.
Again, show me how to use the.
Oh yeah.
So,
See that? Yeah, right. And then you click on Add to Broadcast, and it immediately takes that and puts the next one up.
Just how do I pan up and down?
Oh, you scroll. Whoop.
Okay, I'll just do that. I don't need to put it on the screen.
Yeah. Wait. Do it. There you go. See? I'll be right back.
Very cool. So the A95L or any Sony, yes, they added with the A95L, they added the 3 presets, standard, and yes, you can add live color, you can go brightness preferred over gradation preferred. The challenge is they're not as effective as other manufacturers' settings like that. The Samsung, you put color booster on, it's night and day. So yes, you can make it punchier, Bob, but it'll never be as punchy as these other manufacturers. But if you're enjoying it, that's great. I like my A80L for gaming. The A95L is awesome. What's up, Habs fan? Let's see. Let me go back up to you guys. Thank you guys for joining us today. This is our second day in a row. Again, we're at Value Electronics in Scarsdale, New York. If you're thinking about buying any of these TVs or any audiovisual equipment, please hit them up. The location is in Scarsdale, New York. We have all their information in the description. Ask for Robert, Wendy, or Leanne. They'll take great care of you. And there's bonus discounts if you say that you saw FOMO and I. So let's not forget our hosts today. This mouse is crazy. Great to see you, Habs. The B9 is here, Matt and Bev. It's 65 inches. It's in the back. Normally we have at Value Electronics the 85, but not today. We wouldn't dream of putting a 65-inch B9 out here. Robert Zone is in the house.
Hello.
You guys seen Robert? I came to so Robert. You know what? I think what we saw the last couple days, it's really exciting me for the shootout.
Yes, it is.
So the shootout's going to be in July this year.
Yes. It's nice to see these new advancements in technology.
Grab this real quick.
Very nice.
So, I mean, why don't you give your analysis, Robert, on what you've seen between the last 2 days between the S95 and the G5 for you? You living with these, and you guys set them up.
We're comparing 2 ultra premium flagship TVs from the premium companies. So, when we nitpick about the differences, we see those differences, and yes, they matter. So it's a good discussion. But very respectfully, they're sort of moderate. They're not dramatic. It's not like, oh my God, this is dramatically different or better. It's better in some ways, and it's good to discuss that. And there are some issues that need some attention, and I love all of this. But we're talking about two world-class TVs that you can't make a mistake on either one. And putting them next to each other, we can easily see the differences. Put them in two different rooms, we won't notice it as much when they're on their own, because our eyes and our brain has a very nice way of correcting things that we see are wrong, and then we see them better.
Yeah. Antique Legend says, Robert, do you have a G4 77 in stock?
We do. We do have
There
it
you go.
in stock, yes. And it's a bargain
I don't know what the
price.
hell that is, but.
No, it just pops up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good time of the year, Robert, before the inventory of these older TVs goes away.
There we go.
You know,
Yeah.
you ought to recommend to go with a larger size of last year's TV.
Absolutely. It's always nice. It's nice to talk about and discuss all these differences. Single most important thing when you have a good picture is to get the bigger screen size. That really is.
But the G4 still looks amazing. We had it up yesterday.
It
Antique,
is.
go back and watch yesterday's stream. The G4 was in it for the majority of the time.
Yes.
I'm going the wrong way.
But the G5 is also a very nice upgrade in the panel and the processor. This is the second generation of the flagship A11 Mach 2 processor.
How do I add the comment, Filmo?
Oh, you click on that. You put it where it says add to broadcast. So move the ball. Or,
Okay.
I've never done that before. Let me try that and see how that works.
It doesn't. Oh, it does work. Andrea
move it
says,
down.
"Hi, Robert. Wish all the best and respect for what you're doing."
Thank you.
And
Thank
that's
you.
a part of it. Here, Phil, we take over for you. Your thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to use the
Well,
bathroom.
we'll have to wrap up anyway because I got to get to the airport. So that's I'll wrap up. And
Okay.
thank you, Robert, for joining us.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Let's make sure we have
No,
you
that's
on
okay.
screen.
That's
all right. All right. So we'll take a few final questions before we wrap up. Any questions about the G4 or G4? Yeah, ask about the G4, the G5, S95F, or any TV that you're thinking of buying. Here's your chance to do it. Thank you so much, everyone.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you come back again next week?
No, what's happening? No, nothing.
We're getting some of the Sony TVs. We're going to have the Bravia 8 Mach 2.
Oh, I'm so tempted. What size?
We're getting the 65 next week.
I'm so tempted. How, if you get the Panasonic too.
Well, that's going to be about 3 weeks away.
3 weeks. Oh.
And also next week, we're getting the new Bravia 5.
I'm so excited.
Also in a 65 inch. Next week.
Okay, we'll have to see.
You
We'll
got
have
to come
see.
back.
I have to come back. My wife may not let me. He's like, oh, he's there again. Like, I went to get milk. He ended up.
Bring your wife with you. Bring
I
her.
went to get milk, and he ended up in New York.
That's right.
And
We need you here next week.
Thank you. So we'll catch up with the super chats and answer a few questions, and then I got to wrap up, pack, and head out to the airport. Jay Norris, thank you for the super chat. Do you know which brand or software is the best in terms of data collection and invasive ads? No, I trust nothing. When it comes to data collection and invasive ad, you cannot trust them because there's always the data breach. This is the issue. Even with good intent, I'm not even going to imply maliciousness or conspiracy, right? Data protection, data security is an issue at the largest and most protected companies. It does not matter, right? The professionals who are intent on stealing your data, they will steal it from Google, Microsoft, Facebook.
That's right.
Don't care. So there is no brand as the best in terms of data collection and invasive ads. And one day they're good, the next day they're bought out, merged, and they change their mind. Cannot trust anyone. So at the end of the day, right now as it stands, invasive ads, so data collection, that's to answer data collection, right? Invasive ads, you could disable it on many of these TVs, so it has less ads. I think LG is listening to its customers as well as Samsung. The issue is these ads pay for your TVs. I'm not defending the ads, but that's why they're able to make money, and that's why they're able to give you more TVs. They're getting so much revenue, specifically Samsung and LG on Tizen and WebOS. All more power to them, because I'd rather them do that to make you great TVs if it's only ads rather than collecting your data, right? And one goes with the other, right? And collecting your viewing habits. But as it stands, it's hard for me to say, hey, get WebOS, because you could disable it. In 2 months, maybe you won't. And this constant change, because money, cash flow drives these decisions. If they get so much money on invasive ads, it becomes more invasive. and they will disable the ability for you to disable it.
That's right.
And so one company's non-invasive ad will be the next company's invasive ad. So I don't want to say, like Roku didn't even have ads before, and now they're considering technology that will insert ads into your HDMI port when you buy a Roku TV, if you could believe that, right? So I'm sorry to say the answer is, I'd say Tizen right now for me. It's not too invasive. I like their home screen. It's a little bit cleaner, but that's today. I don't know how it'll be tomorrow. WebOS isn't bad. Google TV is up to Google, so I cannot say it's a Sony thing. It's a Google thing. But yeah, and Google's too good at ad delivery, so I don't know. I don't really trust them. And so thank you for that, Jay. Nick, how do you boost the colors in the G5? So on the G5, you have dynamic tone mapping that gets it brighter, but you can't boost color saturation if it's not there, right? I mean, you could change the color temperature. You can go warmer and cooler than accurate, but it's not boosting it per se. Like Sony has real, like live color. I think on the LG, go to the color setting and you can play with that, going up and down, right? Making it warmer and warmer. But ultimately, dynamic tone mapping boosts the brightness with a little bit of that color. I think that's helpful. But sometimes the content just doesn't have enough color. So you might want to change the mode to vivid. That will boost the colors, right? Vivid mode kind of boosts it a little bit. Samsung or Sony has some good color boosting. The not reality creation, the live color. Sony finds a way to saturate it. LG doesn't have a live color feature, but I'd say, yeah, because I don't normally boost colors. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
How do you boost colors on an LG OLED? Do you have a color boosting
All
function?
you can do is go into the saturation.
Saturation?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the only.
It doesn't have like a live color.
It's really the only manufacturer that doesn't have that color booster, live color.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Samsung has color booster, literally like a color
so you
boost.
just go into the saturation.
Saturation.
Just increase
Yeah,
it.
play with saturation.
It's not the same effect.
Sorry about that, Nick. Sorry about that. That's the best we can do. And thank you so much, Eric, for generosity. How do I get the best movie experience from a G5? Will movie stream from an Apple TV look as good as from a Blu-ray on the G5? So I've done comparisons between Blu-ray and streaming. If your bit rate is good enough, right? Your internet connection's great, above average, it'll look nearly indistinguishable. The biggest difference is in the sound quality. Streaming audio is not as, it's more compressed, and you're losing some of that audio data and you're losing some bass even, versus Blu-ray home audio. So for the best audio Blu-ray player, the actual visual, they look nearly identical, if not outright identical. So on the G5, I'm assuming you're focused on the visual. Apple TV streaming movies that you bought on Apple is fine. So yeah, the answer is fine. The best movie experience from your G5, consistently though, personally, I choose Kaleidoscape, where you have the best of all worlds, the video and the audio. No, he sells Kaleidoscapes here.
Well, it's world class.
Very good.
It's uncompressed.
It's uncompressed audio. Yep.
Yeah.
And what I like about Kaleidoscape is, not to plug Kaleidoscape, but I use it personally. That's why I like it, and I use it for reviews. Their prices on their high quality movies are on sale, and everything goes on sale at some time, is lower than a disc.
That's right.
Brand new, within a release date. So I always put alerts and buy that. And the price to entry for Kaleidoscape is dropping, right? They're
Yes.
getting more and more affordable.
And you get the master copy, so you're getting
Yes.
a better, the video and audio is better.
But as far as
And
image,
you get them before they come out on Blu-ray discs.
yes,
You get them
you get
before
that.
they come out.
So, but Blu-ray player image quality about the same as Apple TV. You're not going to notice the difference. I'm fine with it. And Buddy, thank you for staying around, hanging around. Robert, without getting in trouble, what can you tell us about the Panasonic TV lineup availability? Some of us are looking into making this purchase. We're talking Panasonic. What can you share without getting in trouble?
Well, I have another meeting with them early this coming week, and we're factory direct with Panasonic, and we're very friendly with everybody there. So, and I do love their processing. So I have high expectations, but it's probably about 3 weeks away.
Okay, fair enough. So
For the 2025, the new model.
yes, the new model. This is the N95B.
Right,
Hold on to your
correct.
pennies. Yes. Thank you for that, buddy. And super chat from Bob Zio Coco. Thank you for the super chat. I'll look for your question before I head out. And FOMO. Listen to Robert. You have to come back next weekend. and he paid $5 for me to come back.
Yes, that's fair. How do you
That
like
is
that?
fair. I know, right?
We're getting support from the
I know,
industry.
right? I
From
was
the
going to start
movie.
with GoFundMe.
Very good. Thank you.
GoFundMe.
Thank you.
And let me look for your question.
Actually, I think it's probably even more important for you to move here.
Yeah, I know. I love the neighborhood here. Scarsdale.
Come here.
is a
Come
beautiful
on. Come to
neighborhood.
Scarsdale.
I don't know if I can handle the cold. I came from 80 degrees, sunny California, right? Hanging out at the beach. I come here. Oh my God, I'm so cold. I didn't bring my thermal underwear. Classy has a great point.
It's good to have a change of seasons.
I know,
though.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, Classy, thank you for answering this. This is in response to the super chat earlier by Nick Diesel asking about how do you boost colors in the G5. So Classy is a calibrator, world class.
Yes.
Thank you, Classy.
Yes.
He is also in our shootout as one of the calibrators. LG has a fine-tune option in the color menu that is similar to live color. Boom.
Oh,
Go in there
good.
and play with that setting. Right.
Thank you.
It's amazing that Classy knows this because I know he would never touch that option. And to your point, Christian, as you saw, there is a menu you can fine-tune. It's just not called live color.
Right.
FOMO, maybe you can tell LG to implement a live color feature for the G6. You know what? I'm trying to convince LG, and we all speak to their engineers. You have AI. I want natural language so that you guys can pick up the remote. Hey, LG, can you boost the color?
Right.
And then it does it. And you're like, you know what? That's a bit too much. That's too cool, too much blue. Make it a little warmer, and it's going to fine tune for you. You don't have to touch a darn thing. That's what AI is for. So that's what I'm working on with LG to convince them that's how you should use AI. That should be your interface to making the TV look the way you want it. And oh, Robert, do you have a YouTube channel? I kind of think that I'm
I
the
actually
YouTube
have
channel.
2 or 3 YouTube channels. I don't use them very much.
Well, because we do such a good job of talking about
But
Robert.
I have
right?
the TV Shootout. I have Value Electronics on YouTube.
What's your channel called, Robert?
YouTube.com/Value Electronics.
There you go.
And then the other one is TV Shootout.
But it's best to email him if you want to talk to him. Or
Yes,
call him.
yes,
Call him. He
yes.
answers the phone. Like, it's going to ring. He's going to walk away right now.
Yes, that's right.
All right. And we'll take a few more questions before I have to pack up, my friends. Oh, this is a question I rarely see. Value Electronics. The Samsung Frame Pro, ETA. Any deals?
Yes.
Well,
yes,
let me start
yes,
with
yes.
the FOMO deal. 10% store
Yes.
credit. But what can you throw into the Frame Pro? And what sizes do they come in?
Yeah. They're going to come up to 85 inch,
Okay.
but they're going to be available in the next week or two in 65 and 75 inch, and then 1 week later 55 inch.
Okay.
And it is a nice upgrade this year.
Any deals that you can throw in?
Well, call me and we'll make a deal. Yes.
There
And
you
that's
go.
true with everybody.
Absolutely.
We're very soft and easy people here. So.
Too soft, too easy. And something to keep in mind, because I have a frame as well, and the Frame Pro is just a better version of the normal frame.
It is. It is.
Vertical orientation mounting. It is the only TV in the world where you can flip it vertically and it becomes an amazing installation. So
It
what
is.
I do with my TV is I take it, I flip it, and it becomes like a vertical. It doesn't look like a TV anymore. So if you take your Frame Pro, get the 85 inch, and you have to confirm whether the 85 inch does a vertical orientation. If it does,
Yes.
that changes everything in your house. Because if you have, let's say, 10-foot, 20-foot ceilings that are tall enough, you put that in there, and you walk through the door, and it's part of your installation. Man, that they don't even think it's a TV. It looks like art, and they come back. Wait, wasn't this painting
right.
different when I came in?
That's right.
So have fun with the Frame or the Frame Pro. Get the largest size that you can vertically. Boom, this way, right?
Yes.
And it's no longer a TV. It's fun. I love that. Yeah, I don't look at the frame as a TV, Robert. I think of it
I
as
know.
art installation that
That's right.
happens to be a TV.
That's right.
But for just displaying fun things, art, whatever, it's great. And you can see texture on it because, like I said before, the surface coating on the frame is completely different than the S95, any of these
Yes, it
things,
is.
right? It is designed to make it look like texture. So when I saw art that was impressionist art,
Beautiful, huh?
and you have the oil painting that comes out like oil paintings do, I thought it was coming out of the painting. I'm like, wait a minute. And that was when it hit me. This is what the TV is for.
That's
Not
right.
for watching content. It's for displaying oil canvases that look like an oil canvas. I've never seen that before digitally, but I did, and I'm a believer. Again, it's just for art lovers. It is so good, and it's amazing. I'm a big fan of that. All right, so we're gonna wrap up. Any last minute questions, my friends? MLA, slightly raised blacks. You guys notice the purplish screen on the G4 compared to the G5?
No.
No. Nope. Do not. Mostly the difference between the G4 and the G5 is brightness, maximum brightness levels, and at the brightest level, watching sports, you lose a little contrast in the G4,
Yes.
specular highlights a little bit lost,
Yes.
and then a little color saturation,
Yes.
not as good. So, yeah.
Well, it's better on the G5.
Yes.
Color saturation, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. The G4 is not as good. Yep. And oh, here we go. Dwayne is coming in. D-Nice, if you don't know, is Dwayne Davis. He is the calibrator here, and he's confirmed that he can calibrate it to make them look the same. He can calibrate out that lifted black, so after calibration, they will both look the same. Thank you, Dwayne, for confirming that. We will make sure to mention that it can be calibrated out, the lifted blacks. That's coming out of the box. So, but here's the thing.
Hey, Dwayne, we got several of them for you to do already.
Hey,
so
Dwayne,
come on over.
Quick question for you, though. If you do calibrate it and then LG decides to fix it in firmware, does it need to be recalibrated? Because now it's too dark, right, Dwayne? So it's like, oh, why? So if you calibrate it out and then the TV gets a firmware update by adjusting the levels, hopefully there is some standard that maybe they could apply a global change that you don't have to visit them after calibration. Let us know. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, awesome. Thank you, Dwayne, for sharing that. Here we go. And Specular, does the 400 nit full field white make as much of a difference as I think it does?
Yes, it does.
For people who watch sports.
That's right.
Bright sports, skiing, and hockey. That means that it's not so much that it gets bright, but rather it doesn't dim over time, the ASBL, right?
Yes.
So if you're watching hockey and it's a full game, and you come back after getting some chips, like, wait, is it dimmer to me? It doesn't dim over time. They hold on to that, and that's why it's important. But other than that, full field white 400 nit, it's not a big deal. In real content, you're never going to have that needed for white. Can it do full field brightness with color? That's a completely different test, and it will not be anywhere close to 400 nits, right? Because white subpixel is designed to go full white. So scenes like the Matrix we all see, yeah, it's going to kill it, or hockey. But then you do full field yellow, full field blue, right? A mix of colors, completely different. So I don't think it makes a big difference unless you watch content like sports, specifically with a lot of sky and white. Does it make a huge difference? And actually, this is a great way to end it here. FOMO, when will I be doing the in-studio comparison streams? Soon. So just give you an update. I'll be getting the G5 65-inch in 2 weeks. Spoke to Robert, so he's sending that to me. And that'll be my TV for the year to review and do as I wish. And then Sony is getting me the Bravia 8 Mark II at some point after release. I'm hoping by June. We don't have any dates for that. Samsung is sending me the S90F because we've already beat up the S95F here at this stream, beat both of them. I want to beat up the S90F to compare against the S95D, which I have at home, because many of you will look at the prices and go, wait, S90F is so close to the S95D, maybe I should get the D. What about the gloss? So I'll be doing S90F against the S95D, both 65 inches. And G5, when it comes, we'll compare it to the Bravia 8 as well, or 8II, not just the 8. And then the QM8 will be coming, I'd say, early summer. I'm hoping to get a QM8K specifically. We already have the QM7K done. Hisense will start releasing their TVs early summer as well. So we'll have the U7, U8 for comparison against the QM7K and the QM8K. So a lot to come. Next week, nothing specific because I'm moving the TVs in and out as I return the TVs to TCL or whoever. But yeah, so probably in 2 weeks, we'll start seeing a bunch of more review streams. Thank you for that. All right. And get a super chat real quick before we head out. Ready to order the LG G5 83-inch, but I need tabletop stand with no tilt and low profile, no more than 2-inch rise. Does that exist? So the no tilt, I think, is an issue. I think there's a tilt. You know what, Max? Robert, is Robert here? Or he'll walk off.
Downstairs.
Okay. So when Robert comes back, we'll ask this question. The best person to answer this is really Robert. He'll give you options because you don't have to stick with the LG tabletop stand. He has Sanus tabletop stands that's compatible with the G5. And I know there is a Sanus non-tilt, low profile, no more than a 2-inch rise, because actually that's what we used for last year's comparison. But he'll do the measurements and get you those dimensions. So we'll make sure to get that to you. Just email Robert and he'll give you options, because he also sells all the tabletop stands that are compatible with the LGs, and we'll find you one. Make sure that fits your use case, buddy. Oh, Robert, you're here. So there was a question specifically about a matching tabletop stand. Not necessarily the LG tabletop stand, but any tabletop stand. He doesn't want it to tilt. And I think
That's
the
okay.
Sanus is straight
That's
up.
the right one.
And
Yes.
lower,
And you can tilt it if you want to tilt it.
okay. But he doesn't want more than 2-inch rise above the table.
That's okay.
So the Sanus can
You
do
set
that?
the height exactly where you want it to be, including almost touching the kit table.
Okay, perfect. Then give Robert a call. He'll get you that Sanus.
Yes,
Because I know we used that for some comparisons last year.
it's good.
And do we know if the S90F has the 4th gen QD OLED panel? So honestly, I
Which one
don't
again?
know. The S90F, whether it's the latest generation.
It does. It does. It has
Okay.
the 4th gen. It does.
Okay, and you heard it here.
I know it does.
So we know it does. I was going to say I really don't know, but Robert's
And so
confirmed.
does
The S95.
Sony's
Bravia 8II.
Bravia 8 is going to have the new 4th
The
generation.
8II. 'Cause
Right,
the
correct.
other 8 is still on sale.
That's right.
That's the confusion.
Yeah. And that's a big upgrade this year. It's brighter, better
totally.
color saturation. It draws less energy.
Yeah.
So it's more energy efficient, which means it generates less heat, which is a
All
good
right.
thing.
And let me wrap up right here. Okay, guys, I can catch my flight. I have to wrap up. I'm going to
Yep.
fly off. But in the meantime, hopefully we've answered all the questions you need to make a decision between the G5 and the S95F. Now, we'll have more detailed reviews and comparisons specific to gaming, specific to this, that, and the
Yes.
other, where you have dedicated videos that can drive a little deeper. This weekend we went wide, but not too deep.
That's
but I
right.
think deep enough to give you a sense of these TVs. But if you have any questions, please put it in the comments below, and we'll try to answer it. And if you have any specific questions about dimensions and ordering, Value Electronics, whether it's the G5, the S95F, or the Bravia 8II coming in this year, that's their upgrade and successor to the A95L. I cannot wait to have that against the
I know.
Panasonic.
I
And
know.
for those of you who want the ultimate shootout with calibration, where Dwayne Davis, he will be the one producing this shootout. It's going to be amazing this year. He will tell you what's what. And that one's coming up July 12th. We will have the Panasonic Z95B, the Sony
Yes.
Bravia 8II, the LG G5, and the Samsung S95F. The 4 top TVs of the year compared, fully calibrated against reference. We're gonna have fun.
You
We're
put the
gonna be-
Panasonic in that list, right?
Yes,
Yes.
the Z95B, and we'll gonna talk what happened, who won, do you agree or disagree? Again, it's gonna be fun. And until next time, you got to stop the FOMO, because we're here to get the TVs for you, right?
And then also we're going to have an LCD LED event as well.
Sure.
So
the best
day 2.
LCD TVs for those of you who want the larger
Right.
TVs to see
Yes.
how that goes.
Yes.
Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO.
Yay.
Bye.
Okay.